Indina mimiato agbonwagaka. Koshire ya ma the share organala mdogbena mauba nerono de dienami. Welcome to the AM show. I'm Sweetie Abochi.
My name is Benjamin Akakwa. It's the commencement of another beautiful week, and of course I hope you've woken up with good cheer, hoping that all of us can hold hands, Ubuntu, and head into a bright future for Ghana. Now, here's what you can expect on the show this morning. The AM news in a bit, followed by the news review. 4 stalwarts joining us, or is it 3? Victoria Bright is an entrepreneur and legal practitioner. Amanda Clinton is head of chambers at Clinton Consultants. And we also have Wanda Madilo with the NDC's communications team. They'll all 3 join us here in the studio. From there, we head into sports with Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. And then we get into our big stories.
Yes, because 124 days done and dusted by the Mahama administration, but 1,460 more days to go. And so we're asking, what is next after the 120-day social contract? How does President Mahama consolidate and sustain gains the government touts to have made, as well as satisfying the aspirations of the Ghanaian people? I'm talking about the fight against corruption, assets declaration, code of conduct for public or political appointees. Did I already mention the fight against Galamsey because it's very topical? And of course, that 24-hour economy and the issues of unemployment, etc. We'll discuss what's next beyond the social contract with the Ghanaians. And later, of course, we have In the Trends, Ben.
Well, after all the hard stuff, we'd love to hear from you, but also to whip up your interest in getting active with us, we'll have In the Trends. And of course, we'd love to hear from you, like I mentioned. Don't you forget, the AM show is proudly sponsored by Waylead Properties. They provide quality housing at an affordable cost and with a flexible payment option. You don't need to go anywhere else. Head to Waylead. On that note, we take a break. When we return, we serve you the news. Up next.
Sweetie Abochi, and you're live on the AM show. This is the AM News. And details now. The Teachers and Educational Workers Union of the Trades Union Congress is pushing back against efforts by a splinter group attempting to undermine the union. The breakaway group, which is also using the name TEWU, is accused of doing everything possible to weaken TEWU of TUC, which has existed for nearly 60 years. As a media briefing, General Secretary King James Azobita stated that beyond legal action, the union is exploring other strategies to address the issue. I will tell you more in this report.
Teachers and Educational Workers Union of the Trades Union Congress continue to fight to exert its weight as the sole group representing members. With a population of over 85,000 members across the country, TEU of TUC is exploring options available to ward off another group formed by some past executives bearing the same name and competing for space. This is said to have resulted in tension on campuses of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology and University for Development Studies, with no clear ending in sight. King James Azotiba is the General Secretary for TEU of TUC.
Regarding council representation on the public universities, the various public universities acts and status governing the institutions clearly designate the Teachers and Educational Workers Union as the representative union for specific staff categories on the Universities Council. Recently, our representatives were sworn in to the governing councils of the public universities in accordance with what is stipulated in the Universities Acts and Status. We want to use this opportunity to commend His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, President John Dramani Mahama, and the Minister of Education, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, who is also a legal luminary.
King James Azotiba says the union will uphold the principles of the 1992 Constitution.
Regrettably, some university management officials seem to tacitly support the actions and misbehavior of the breakaway groups. And we strongly condemn such acts. And we expect strict adherence to the Public Universities Acts and the statutes that are laws establishing the various public universities. In conclusion, Sister Chair, the Teachers and Educational Workers Union of TUC will uphold the principles of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana and protect its heritage.
Meanwhile, Secretary General of TUC, Joshua Ansah, has assured TEU that TUC will continue to help them fight this cause.
We will support TEU because we know that they are the right union that has been existing for 58 years and above in the Republic. So why the sudden change? We want to urge the Vice Chancellors and all those who matters in this matter to read their history about TEU of TUC and the newly born TEU Ghana. In some jurisdictions, it will not be entertained at all. Using TEU Ghana, I mean, it's unheard of. So I think that it is rightful for TUC to back our affiliate in fighting a just cause, because the law and the act is in their favor, and don't have to sit down until the die is cast before TUC will come in.
For TEU of TUC, the earlier these challenges are addressed, the better for the country.
Moving on, traditional authorities in communities hosting the Ewoya Lithium project have raised concerns over delays in the project's commencement, which they say have disrupted the livelihoods of about 1,000 affected farmers and property owners. Originally scheduled to begin in the second quarter of 2025, the project remains in limbo as government approval for Barari DV Ghana Limited's mining lease is still pending. At a press briefing, the chiefs questioned the government's commitment, citing growing economic pressure on the young people who were employed for the project. There's more in this report.
The Nananum of the host communities of the Ewoya Lithium project would like to address the media and the public regarding concerns with the delay in the start of the Ewoya Lithium mine. What are the government's plans for the project? We should note that we have seen the start date of the project changed due to the delay in ratifying the lease. The delay is causing economic strain, especially for the youth already employed by the project. Losing jobs will be a big problem as the uncertainty surrounding the ratification and mine start date is worrying. The declaration of moratorium since December 2023 has put about 700 affected members, 700 affected farmers and 300 property owners in a dilemma about when to resume full cultivation and to continue their structure development in confidence. Call to action. Message to the government, Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. We urge the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and all government institutions involved to expedite ratification process to enable the project to move forward, revive interest and confidence in the Ewoya Lithium project, and bring promised benefit to our communities. If there are reasons for the delay or concerns about the project's advancements, we must be informed so we can communicate transparently to our people. If there are reasons for the delay or concerns about the project's advancement, we must be informed so we can communicate transparently to our people. We further call on our MP, Honorable Prince Ahin, Dr. Honorable Felix Kwachi Fosu to support our call and the projects.
A youth group in the Kalio traditional area of the Upper West region is urging President John Dramani Mahama to prioritize merit, fairness and competence in appointing a district chief executive, that is the DCE, for Nadoli Kalio. At a press conference, the group's acting president, David Jawara Bani, said the youth are ready to support leadership committed to inclusive development. He called on political actors, traditional and opinion leaders to prioritize peace and development over personal interest, as the district remains one of two in the region yet to confirm a DCE nominee. Joy News' Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Kalio.
According to the group Concerned Youth of Kalio Traditional Council, their press conference is to express their displeasure over what they called divisive, discriminatory and inflammatory comments, which they believe has not only the tendency to undermine the peace between the Nadoli and the Kalio traditional areas, but also threatens the peace, stability, and social cohesion of the broader Nadoli Kalio district as well. Constituency women organizer of the NDC in the Nadoli Kalio constituency, Mera Haruna, was nominated by the president for the position of the district chief executive. She was, however, rejected by the 52-member assembly after she garnered 24 yes votes against 28 no votes. Tempest flared up after the elections, eliciting some verbal hot exchanges between the two entrenched opposite power blocks. In some cases, there were altercations. Addressing the press conference, acting president of the Concerned Youth of Kalio Traditional Council, David Jawara Bani, cautioned that no individual or group of persons holds the monopoly over political leadership or government appointments.
We condemn in the stronger terms all comments and actions that promote division, tribalism, sectionalism, segregation and hate in the selection of the DCE. 2. We call on the appointing authorities, particularly the President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, and all relevant stakeholders to remain firm, fair, and focused on competence and merit over political interest. What we see is that there are some people who think that they deserve to be DCs, and for that matter, any other person that is brought, they will kick against that person, which we are saying that we will not agree. We won't allow today, we won't allow tomorrow. 3. We urge all political actors from the region to the constituency executives, constituency level, the traditional leaders and opinion leaders to act with sense of responsibility and restraint, prioritizing peace and development over personal greed, personal vendetta, or partisan gain.
Now, as the world celebrated Mother's Day yesterday, let me tell you about the trip Joy FM had with mothers to the Safari Valley Eco Resort. It was indeed a day filled with love, well spent with mamas dancing to old tunes and spending quality, uninterrupted time with their children. Hannah Odami, my colleague, was there with them and shares more in this report.
In 2001, I had a very major car accident, and then I had to be admitted at 37 for 6 months. I couldn't walk, I couldn't bath, I couldn't do anything. So she has to leave all my other siblings and come and sleep on the floor at 37 and take care of me for 6 months until I finally started walking. And it's an amazing thing. It's not all mothers who will do that. And then I really appreciate what she did. I will never forget this.
The children sharing memories of how their mothers have been of great help to them.
When I gave birth, she was there. Finally, when my husband passed, about 9 years ago, she has left her matrimonial home and she has been staying with me.
These and many more tributes were accompanied with gifts from sponsors. Prior to that, the team were shown the wildlife at the resorts. This really intrigued the mothers and other patrons.
A great place for everyone to learn, to come and learn, to see nature.
There was a lot that I learned from here, because the animal species and the bird species, most of them were not known to me.
There was variety of meals to choose from. And of course, Safari Valley gave mothers a treat. Chef Romaric Foley is overjoyed that the mamas love his food.
You have Victoria sandwich, you have fruit platter, you have orange, you have pineapple, you have watermelon. Yeah, because you guys are special for Safari Valley. Because of that, I give you guys special food.
Now, the verdict of the mothers who were brought here by their children.
This place is very, very enjoyable. I enjoy it.
It's fantastic for me. It's nice. And I love everything here. So I'm happy, so much happy.
Both mothers and children have many, many unforgettable moments from this day. From the Safari Valley Eco Resort, I am Hannah Odame for Joy News.
Well, if you missed it this time, make sure you don't miss it next year. And on that note, moving on, the Central Regional Minister, Ekopenyi Eduamotre, has admonished education stakeholders to steer health education towards preventive measures against unsanitary environment. At the launch of the 10th anniversary of the University of Cape Coast School of Allied Health Sciences, the minister strongly advocated for courses that provide immediate solutions to bad sanitation, urging the stakeholders to utilize new media. Now, the minister's suggestion comes at a time the central region is focused on eradicating cholera, as hopes for significant decline is recorded in cases. There's more in this report.
The 10th anniversary celebration of the University of Cape Coast School of Allied Health Sciences is founded on the theme, A Decade of Allied Health Education, Innovating for the Future of Allied Health Sciences. According to the Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast, Professor Dennis Wolanyo Aheto, the celebration emphasizes innovative projects in allied health sciences that will help enhance healthcare delivery.
The anniversary celebrations highlight innovative research and projects in allied health sciences, which will afford our students and staff the opportunity to present technological or process innovations aimed at improving healthcare delivery. This will be seen in the workshops and seminars that seek to develop the knowledge and expertise of students and staff in healthcare research methods and emerging technologies. Among other things, the anniversary celebrations will help the school to contribute to selected underserved communities in the central region through community outreach programs.
The Dean of the School of Allied Health Sciences, Professor Desmond Omanie Champong, highlighted the significance of the celebration.
10 years ago, what began as a visionary step by the University of Cape Coast and has blossomed into a vibrant school comprising highly skilled faculty, dedicated students, impactful alumni, all contributing meaningfully to the Ghana healthcare landscape. Today, we celebrate not only our past and present, but also our aspiration for the future. The theme for the celebration, A Decade of Allied Health Education, Innovating for the Future of Allied Health Sciences, is both a reflection and a charge. It reminds us of the strides we have made over the past decade in producing competent, ethical, and forward-thinking allied health professionals, and also challenges us to embrace innovation as we shape the next chapter of our story.
Some strong words and suggestions were shared by the Central Regional Minister, Honorable Ekopenyi Eduamotre.
Doctor, the course you just announced, what the name fits you very well. Then I also would like to introduce another course, Bola Therapy. Bola.
something is wrong with the education system. And so while we're advocating for opening of new courses, let's not forget to introduce courses that will solve our immediate needs.
From Cape Coast, Abigail Lissel in Nkrumah reports for Joy News.
In other news, the CEO of Rural Water Development Program Ghana and founder of the Northern College of Science and Technology, Dr. Nathaniel Adams Jr., has called for the establishment of a smock market in Yendi to promote traditional wear. Speaking as guest speaker at the inauguration of the Yendi Youth Parliament, he noted that no such market exists across the 5 northern regions and challenged the youth to lead the initiative. He emphasized the smock's importance as official traditional attire for Ghanaian men. There's more in this report.
The National Youth Parliament in Ghana is a platform for youth to engage in government decision-making and advocate for their interests. It's a formalized youth structure at the national, regional, and district levels, aiming to provide a space for young people to discuss issues, hold leaders accountable, and mobilize youth for action. The so-called project is supporting 48 districts' parliament in the northern region. Speaking at the inauguration, Dr. Nathaniel Adams Jr. encouraged the parliament to consider setting up a smock market in Yendi.
What I have seen here, if you are there and you are hoping to climb up in politics, be smart, because these kids will take over. The youth we are having here have shown us the ability, the strength, and the potential that they are capable only if they are guided and guided well. I take the challenge from the NCC leader to support whatever is going on in this parliament, and I'll do that when the opportunity comes. I am in a small. It's a gift. It was given me by a citizen of Yendi. I wear smoke a lot, those who know me. I buy smoke from Tamale, the smoke chief. The last time I visited him, I told him I am getting challenges with your smoke. And look, Yendi is challenging me. So I went with my smoke and gave it to them. There are a lot of things that are here today. Soko is supposed to empower you. It's supposed to build infrastructure. Soko is supposed to put your knowledge together. Empower you through what? I hear skill development. And it tells me many other things, skill development and others. Here I want you as well, the media, to take notes. Please, I want to challenge this parliament with the support of the traditional authorities. As one of your goals, take it up. Let's consider this parliament putting together a way to set up a Yendi smoke market.
That takes us to our business update now with Benjamin Akaku.
Let's delve right into our business updates. And some Ghanaian exporters have expressed concern over the continued appreciation of the Ghana cedi against the American dollar, warning that it could negatively impact their revenue and cash inflows. They argue if the trend persists, it could derail their annual budgets and increase operational costs. Strong performance, exporter George Bonya called for government's intervention to cushion exporters from the effects of the currency's appreciation.
Of the litigation. The litigation is having too much toll. It's just having a lot of toll on our people. And we think that the litigation is not helping anybody. You've been to court, the court has thrown you out. You filed an injunction to stop the current holders of the lease from proceeding. The court says no, we disagree. Government did what it had to do. And so there's absolutely nothing wrong if the current holders of the lease decide or proceed with the operations of the mine. But they are still lurking around, filing one suit or the other. And we do not think it's in the interest of the companies, it's in the interest of workers, and certainly it's not in the interest of the community, and by extension the country. And so there's an urgent need for some closure on the matter. There's also the matter of parliamentary ratification of mining leases, which increasingly is becoming an issue. I do not see why Minerals Commission and by extension Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources haven't gone through due diligence and done what they have to do by law. Should be difficult for Parliament to do the needful by ratifying these leases. It's a constitutional matter, obviously. It's a matter that requires Parliament to consider before ratification is done. But we believe that business efficacy requires that government prioritizes some of these things and get it going. Because as I speak to you now, one of the contentious issues is about whether or not the Bogosu Christian mining lease has been ratified by Parliament. And that is also gradually becoming a bottleneck. We do not think it should be so. So as quickly as possible, we expect that the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, through the relevant committees, would make this available to Parliament for consideration and ratification.
Well, on that note, marking the city stability, we cap off our business updates for the morning. Handing over back to Sweetie Abochi.
And for bringing us business updates. And that wraps up the AM News Bulletin on the AM Show. Stick with us because we're back in a bit with a news review segment and our guest will join us in the studio. We'll be right back.
Welcome back on the news review segment of the AM Show. Don't you forget the AM Show is proudly sponsored by Waylead Properties. Let me ask you, are you thinking of a rewarding investment you can engage in? Well, Waylead Company Limited is your preferred choice for such an investment. Let me tell you this. Waylead Company Limited is a real estate company with many developments to its credit in Accra. And now they're inviting you to invest in their new development. It's called Willow Lane. And believe you me, that is a place where elegance marries tranquility, right in the heart of Accra. They're also providing quality housing at an affordable cost and with a flexible payment option. At Waylead Properties, they also provide you with 24-hour security, reliable power supply, and other social amenities to make your stay memorable. So all you have to do, pick up your phone, save these numbers, give them a call in the course of the day, 0240 111 119 or 0504 499 999. You can also check them out on www.waylead.org. Let's get into our guests joining the conversation in a bit, or in fact, right now. Amanda Clinton is head of chambers at the Clinton Consultants, and we also have Wanda Madilo. He is with the NDC's communications team. Shortly, we'll also have joining the conversation Victoria Bright, if you want to put it fully. She's a lawyer, entrepreneur, and a former legal advisor to former President Kufuor. But let's come into the studio. Lady, gentlemen, good morning. Another week has started. We're going to hit the ground running. Quick thoughts on anything on your mind in about a minute and a half. I'll start with you, Amanda.
Just that I think I want to commend the Finance Minister for the appreciation of the CD, as well as the imminent release of, $370 million IMF. And furthermore, I think it's written on the wall for not only the Chief Justice, but, the Electoral Commissioner, in terms of what's been unfolding the last week or so. But I think in line with President Mahama's aim of at least 30% female, it would be good if the next Electoral Commissioner and CJ, if that's the case, are female. And thirdly,
based on what are you...
No, if they're excellent, I think that Mahama failed
based on what are your suspicions hinged that the CJ is going and that the EC boss is going?
I think the writing's on the wall. We can get into that later.
The writing is on the wall, huh?
Yes, the writing's certainly on the wall. But and then thirdly, Sammy Gyamfi's gift. It is.
We're touching on that this morning.
Yes, it's really nice to be generous, and I think he was just doing it out of generosity. However, with Mahama's May 2025 Code of Conduct, it didn't go against it. However, such actions could be interpreted as conflicting with the code's principles, especially if they're seen as undermining the national currency or suggesting a lack of confidence in the local economy. But I think it was just a goodwill gesture. But, perhaps in future the optics could be better observed.
All right, thank you very much. Wanda, why did you wince? You had a look on your face when I said we were going to take a look at it.
I was wondering why that is a national topic. I felt it's a bit private. Yeah, the individual involved may be a government functionary, but of course we all do have our own ways of showing affection, care, sympathy, and empathy towards society. So I didn't think that it would come up, on a discussion like this.
Let me just interject before you proceed. I don't know whether you will talk about it. You will have to talk about it.
We will talk about it. Right?
But just a quick thought. I may forget.
Yeah.
If the NDC had been in opposition, let's put ourselves before election 2024, and you had seen a public official. Sammy is someone I know very well, and I know his ethics and all of that, but the optics didn't look good in this, display of, not even, I'm sure even some people would have pardoned it if it had been the Ghana city. The fact that it was apparently American dollars made some people think, wait, we're making gains and some people are supposedly, would you have been talking the same way you're talking now?
Well, this is largely based on conjecture, that if we were in opposition, well, who knows? Let's be very fair, There have been times where we've seen public officials, visibly throw money at the crowd and all that stuff. And so, for me, whether we're in opposition or in government, the position is the same. Sammy himself has issued an apology.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, which is a good thing. So that's why I didn't think there would be a topic for discussion. Whoever
wait, you think because he's apologized, it's not worth discussing because
Ghana has
he's apologized, we should just gloss over it, and there are some people who are calling for his head.
Well, opinions. They're like noses. Everybody has one. We're all entitled to one. I think that Sammy did not commit a crime on this occasion.
No, he did not.
He tried to help somebody who actually asked for help. You may be talking about the currency, maybe talking about what quantity, I don't know any of those details. What I know is that he was generous enough to have given to somebody that already has a lot of, quote-unquote issues.
People have asked,
public domain. So
even apart from the issues, Agradaa, some people have asked, and I read a lot on these things. People sent the videos to me with so many comments. I can't get through all of them, but the number of people who sent this. And some would say, okay, but if you're giving to the needy, Agradaa, Mama Pat, some people feel she's not exactly a needy person.
Yeah, I do agree. That's why I'm saying that all this conjecturing, all this trying to put in perspective and all that, people are entitled to all of that. Sammy himself has come out openly to say that he's sorry. He thinks that he would have been a little bit more careful the next time and all that. So I'm at a difficulty speaking to an issue that the center of the discussion himself has acknowledged some error and has apologized in that regard. That's why I don't want to. What else do you have to say when the man at the center of the controversy says?
I respect Sammy for the apology. These are things that not too long ago people would unashamedly, unabashedly do and maybe have nothing to say about. But beyond that apology, I'm trying to wrap my mind around it. Imagine the fact, for example, how do you reconcile, and after this I'll not pose any questions to you on that, I'll come to Vicky. How do you reconcile the code of conduct that President Mahama gives his appointees just a few days prior? And he's hammering on, declare your assets, he's hammering on, even if you're taking a gift not in excess of 20,000 cedis, which some have said is even high, and all of that. And then this happens. It just doesn't go with the flow, does it?
Optics. Chief, what has happened?
The optics, like we said, is not a crime. It's not that he's committed any, but the optics. You know that based on those optics in other jurisdictions, people, face problems.
Yeah, so I agree, and I'm saying that what has happened has happened. The man at the center of the controversy says, "I am sorry." He thought he could have been a little bit more cautious or careful in his, magnanimity towards the woman. The woman herself has also done some video to say that she asked for the money and all that. So if he didn't give, it would have been a problem. When he gave to, it's a problem. I understand the sentiment and all that. The earlier we try to put this aside and move on, the better for all of us, because I know many other appointees, including individuals like us, are all learning from what has happened.
Indeed.
And I think that we will serve this country a lot of good if we all learn going forward and to quickly put this behind us and concentrate on the much bigger issues.
Okay. Let me bring in Vicky Bright. That is, if you have any thoughts on this matter, have you seen the video?
No, I haven't seen the video.
Okay, so we're actually showing that video with the exchange. And my surprise in there was the fact that I saw phones and cameras and all of that, which would suggest that you see that, look, people are holding phones and all of that. You probably should be a bit more careful, because I saw, even if you were going to be this magnanimous, and I don't have any problem with that, but you see phones, people are holding, you should, because you could see someone was filming from this angle, which meant that it was yes, so obvious, I mean.
But the Code of Conduct doesn't actually explicitly prohibit the gifting of foreign currency, you see, but the issue that might come up... It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. But the issue that might come up, ultimately, is can it be interpreted as, undermining national currency or suggesting a lack of confidence in the local economy? That's the issue. But in fairness to Sammy Gyamfi, I really do think sometimes people are given that much in terms of that level of responsibility because maybe they're generous people. You know what I mean? When you're a generous person, it comes back to you in getting a good position and different things like that. So you keep on giving because that is what, we were brought into this earth to do, to be generous and to prosper. Do you see what I mean? And so maybe optics-wise, he could better handle that in terms of coming from a communication background, which he now does, given his former position within the NDC. Optics-wise, it could have been better, but I honestly think that being a generous human being to everyone is what leads people to success in life. Perhaps this is just an example of that.
Wanda, I still see you. I'm coming to you, Vic. I see you fretting a bit, fidgeting a bit, looking at me a certain way. Let me make this clear. No. And I have said it to many of my people in the political sphere. Sammy and I enjoy a pretty good relationship. I could even call it a friendship and all of that. But if I deem it not right, I will not hide it. And I believe it's a learning curve for Sammy Gyamfi. We are discussing it today. Tomorrow, we shall move on. But today, we shall discuss it. Vicky.
Yes, I agree with you. I think it's a learning curve. I think it's an indiscretion. It was a mistake. It's unfortunate. And as you said, against the backdrop of what President Mahama is trying to do with this code of ethics and similar, I think the timing is also not the best. But he has not committed any crime.
No.
I think we're all agreed on that. And I think we should accept his apology because, look, nobody is infallible. And so Sammy has apologized. I think we should accept the apology in good faith and we should move on.
We should accept it and move on.
We should accept it and move on. And I think he himself should grow as a result of this. I mean, he's now entered government for the first time. And there are going to be many lessons along the way. So I'm sure he would have learned a lesson from this. And he'll grow as a result. We all learn from our mistakes and we become better people. And so I think he should, we should just accept the apology and move on.
Wanda, we should move on. Wanda is telling me to move on. When you do that, you prompt me to stay there. don't do that. You make me stay there. Someone sends in a message and says, but is this not the same Agradaa who was insulting President Mahama back then?
So that brings another discussion in focus. So you see, majority of the uproar even was internal. I can tell you for a fact that internally people were more agitated because they felt, we've been in a position for all this while. We just came back, and this woman who was a thorn in our flesh, virtually, insulting the then candidate, you know, John Mahama and all that. You didn't need to extend that. So these are all the issues. You wouldn't have heard about all this anger in the system if it was not backed also by internal, you know, uproar. Agradaa took a decision on her own because of her godfather, as it were, Reverend Owusu at the time, who had declared that John Mahama wasn't going to win the elections. And so she went on and on and on and on and on and on. And we all saw, but you see, the posturing of President Mahama speaks a lot in volumes. And all the people who work around him now knows that nobody's an enemy. It was a campaign season and she was all over the place. Campaign is over, elections are over, we have won the elections, we make progress. And we've brought everybody on board. We try to have an open system and a more, you know, engageful system than apprehensions that you would have expected. That's why you will see some of this happen. And then she also did a video and said that she had given her house to us when we were doing the campaign to use as whatever and whatever and all that. So in the midst of all this, we're very grateful that Sammy Gyamfi himself has learned his lessons and we can make quick progress going forward.
All right, let's get into the papers now. Vicky, did I take your thoughts beyond this? Was there something else?
No, not yet. On this matter or the general thoughts?
I mean, your general thoughts before we get into the papers.
Oh, yes.
Once we go there, we're coming back.
Yes. Yeah, I was very disturbed, actually, to read about maternal deaths. The focused person in the Eastern region responsible for maternal care has made some very revealing proclamations, and which are very disturbing, that we've lost 18 mothers just between January and May this year, and most of them have been in prayer camps. So I think it's important that we educate our mothers, especially the very young ones, to understand that sometimes you may need medical intervention during childbirth. You know, childbirth is a very I guess women, we know what it's like, and men who have been there when their wives are giving birth, you know what it's like. It's not easy. And anything can happen. So it's important that you have the right medical care if, God forbid, something happens. And there has to be some accountability in these prayer camps. You know, we're all Christians or Muslims, we all have our faith. And we cannot allow certain things to happen hiding behind that faith. So for me, that's very important, and we need to tackle that. 18 deaths, I mean, that's just unacceptable.
All right, thank you very much. Let's get into the papers very quickly. And at 7, we're going to be having an interaction. So just stay tuned for that. We're going to be hearing from the business community. I'll not tell you whom we're going to be interacting with, but just in a bit. Keep your fingers crossed. Amanda, let's start with your paper.
Yes, I've got the Ghanaian Times, and headlines include Cosmos Energy pledges $2 billion investment, and the finance minister pledges to sustain the CD appreciation, as well as a unit that's very dear to my heart, which is the human trafficking unit at CID headquarters. Was able to secure 2 Ghanaian women trafficked to Nigeria, returned to Ghana. But Cosmos is huge in terms of, you know, a $2 million investment for upstream operations in Ghana. And the Minister of Energy says that this landmark investment by Cosmos Energy, combined with the government's commitment to reform, signals a new chapter in Ghana's energy narrative, one rooted in transparency, collaboration and opportunity. The minister also called on global investors to explore the growing opportunities within Ghana's revitalized energy sector. So that's like a $2 billion investment, which is probably going to be well received in Ghana.
Okay. Any other stories you'd like to get into?
Well, the U.S. Embassy cautions against visa fraud. For instance, I think the one of the people speaking for the U.S. Embassy said that paying so-called fixers who claim they could secure a U.S. visa for a fee is a real hindrance. And they also revealed that out of 61,000 visa applications submitted, in 2024, only 25,000 was approved. But, you know, visa fraud is a huge thing. So if we curb more of that, maybe more visas will be approved, basically.
I mean, you don't know that for sure. And there are also the statistics about how much these visa fees accrue. I think I saw $10 million somewhere on the back of last year. And people also raised the comments about, look, if someone applies and you take away the other fees that maybe you may charge for the process, the rest of the money, can it be handed back? I mean, it's a genuine conversation people have spoken about, because if you're making $10 million from visa charges alone, if you deduct whatever minutiae may be for the process proper, the rest of it, where is it going? Is it? Do you get what I mean? Mm-hmm. That is, in other words, foreign exchange leaving Ghana, if you quantify it in dollar terms, for something that you may not have benefited from. So there's that question as well. I see it's not exactly a subject you.
For me, the bigger question is, why are so many people comfortable giving money to fixers as opposed to lawyers, and then they approach the lawyers? I mean, I'm approached lots of times after it all goes wrong, and someone they semi-know and the office is closed down. You know, they want to get that $10,000, $15,000 back from. Do you see what I mean? So at first instance, it is for the applicant to do a bit of due diligence and just go to a lawyer first, because, you know, fixers are just kind of like trying to use the system in order to just make money.
But people could also just go through the process on their own, you know what goes into it and go through the process.
Well, not necessarily.
You may need guidance, but I mean...
No, I mean, we do a lot of appeals, and appeals that are successful, and it's normally because the applicant misses a point in terms of showing that they definitely they're definitely going to return,
right, and
proof of that, etc., etc. So going to, you know, good international lawyers will help you along the journey.
All right. Wanda?
Yeah, so follow up to that. The figures you quoted, the 10 million and all, is not right. Just on the face of it, it's 61.
I saw that somewhere.
No, I'm saying that, no, you hear that, you know. I'm actually going to mention a higher figure. So yours is even less.
No, I'm just saying that that is what I saw, at least on our platform. I saw something of the sort,
right, so,
which is what I have on the top of my head. That's
okay, all right, okay. So 61,000, even if you use the basic, which is $185 per person, is 11 million. And there are visas that are going for 600, 315 and all that. So they make more than that, and maybe we should just be looking at what we can glean from that as a country. Now, President Mahama urges to stop forest mining in forest, reserves and all that. I'm told that there is a...
I just wanted your reflections on that story before. I've not come to your page.
Oh, no, I thought... Oh, okay.
Vicky, do you have any reactions to the story she's done?
Not beyond what... I mean, the Cosmos story is interesting because, you know, our upstream sector has suffered quite, significantly. Exxon exited, ACA, are barely doing anything here. And so it's and tallow is also not as it used to be. Right. So our upstream sector is really suffering. And so I'm very heartened to hear that $2 billion is going to be pumped into it to kind of give it a breath of life again.
What do you think about the visa applications and the appeals? I've met people, and I know people who genuinely, they are not going to some of these countries to go and stay or do anything. They are, and yet their applications are turned down, sometimes first time, second time, third time. It's maybe later that they get it. And they are practically just going there for some specific purpose, and they're coming back, and yet they keep getting rejected. What do you think about Amanda's point?
Getting lawyers involved. I mean, I think that, if you can afford it, because not everyone can afford that. But of course, if you get legal guidance, it's going to minimize your chances of getting rejected, or if you're appealing, it's going to help you to represent your case in a more meaningful way. These visa rejections, application rejections, I have problems with some of them because I kind of feel that I think it's a question of respect. I just kind of feel that our countries are just totally disrespected sometimes. I'm not saying all the time, but they are disrespected. And there's this blanket assumption that if you apply to go outside, it means you are so desperate to stay there. And as you said, Ben, not everybody is desperate to stay outside. People just want to go and see something, maybe the Eiffel Tower or whatever, or Big Ben, and come back home. You know, spend a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks outside and come back home. So it is, it's total disrespect sometimes. I mean, you know, blanket just saying no. And I mean, I've met people who actually have boasted about the fact that they've turned down so many hundreds. You know, on the other side, of course, visa, processors who have said in embassies who have just boasted that, oh yes, it was terrible. Hey, when I was in South Africa, I turned down so many. When I was here, I turned down so many. As if they are doing some huge service to their nation. And I always call people out on that. I think it's disrespectful. And so sometimes these applications are not given the proper consideration. They look at it and it's like, no. And I'm in Nigeria and other places, you have waiting lists, sometimes 2 years.
Yeah. It's
crazy.
It was beginning to happen in Ghana, I think, as of last year.
I mean, a 2-year waiting list. Just for the interview. Just for the interview.
Exactly.
I haven't tried that.
I've not personally had these, but sometimes the things that people tell me, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is.
Then you look at the caliber of person, you look at what they do and all of that, and the person insists,
this is it.
I'm not going to do anything there, and yet they keep getting turned down.
Someone substantial in their own country, someone who's, who probably has a business or has a job that, a substantial job, but you just make those blanket assumptions.
There's a subtlety, because I mean, I've actually dealt with a lot of the appeals, like some of the appeals that come to me. And for instance, I'll give you an example. There was this lady, she worked in a pretty good ministry in terms of very well paid. And she was literally, she ran to her office as soon as she was rejected because, she'd proven that she'd gone to, I think, the US before, but still she was rejected for the UK. So she didn't understand because everything on her paperwork was fine. But I could sense by looking at her application, for instance, that she was in her 30s. She wasn't married, she didn't have kids, she was a master's graduate. So ironically, that, in just reading all of that, I thought, well, if I was sitting there as an immigration officer, I think this person hasn't got any, ties per se, well-educated, etc. Maybe they won't come back, blah, blah, blah. So in writing the appeal letter, it was to go that extra step and to emphasize that, well, she had been to the US before and returned, and the fact that she's really happy with her job, and this is the address she's going to, you know what I mean? So
just
little things like that help. And she got it, and she got it.
You don't get to explain all of these things when you are there. And you see, these are discretionary decisions that are made. And let's face it, there is some disrespect. You remember when the current American president back then referred to certain groups of countries as certain countries.
In fact,
you remember
all the African states, isn't it?
I can't say what he said. But I think sometimes there is that disrespect, because if you go to other jurisdictions, they may have similar things, but they will not go through these strenuous. If you are above 30 and you have all of those things, true, it could be that you're going to go and not return. But is it necessarily the case-by-case basis? You mentioned where she was working and all of that. I think those should hold some consideration.
And
we
also,
have to move on, but I see this is a passionate... So very brief.
I just wanted to add that I can see Amanda's point, but if you are looking at this application and you apply it in that way, it's a little bit simplistic, because why would someone with all those qualifications want to be an illegal immigrant? How are they going to benefit from those qualifications? Yes, I mean, she got the visa and she returned actually afterwards. Yes, but sometimes it doesn't. That's actually all the more reason why you should give her the visa, because she's not going to compromise all of that to go and clean somebody's office outside. I mean,
at some point in my life, I've been involved in, helping people secure visas. The biggest challenge is that people are not patient to fill the form.
Legally or
legally? I'm talking about legally.
Okay.
This comment you just made about the lady, and she's been, maybe even when she was asked, have you traveled in the last 5 years, she didn't even take her time to fill all those details. sometimes there are genuine cases of people.
Sometimes there are errors.
Yes, errors in your forms,
Indeed.
and you may not have the opportunity to rectify that.
Okay.
You know, and then they talk about fraud too. Don't forget of people trying to buy, bank statements and place of work and all that. So there are many varied reasons, but of course the disrespect is very loud on the plate.
All right, Amanda, I know you've had quite a take on this, so let's move the conversation forward. Let me bring in GUTA's president, Dr. Joseph Owusu. We're bringing him in because of that charge in recent times. GUTA saying adjust prices with immediate effect, that is GUTA, to traders as the cedi has strengthened, especially against the dollar, but also against other major currencies. Dr. Owusu, good morning. For some reason, I can barely hear you. Good morning, Dr. Owusu.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure having you join the conversation. Why is GUTA making this call?
We have to act in good faith. We have obligation to do that. Now the dollar has come down significantly, and we have to share the gains with the consuming public. The business that we do not do it in isolation. We do it with the consuming public. The business we do lies on turnover, and that if the consumer is unable to buy because of high prices, it also kills our business, our ability even to turn over, be able to pay the banks and all that. So it is in our own interest that prices come down so that we can do a business where the purchasing power of our consumers has been enhanced. This is what we have to do. It's a moral right, and I believe our people will adjust prices to that effect, because much as we want to recoup some of our losses during the past couple of years, it is also only fair that we transfer some of the gains to the consuming public.
Now, this for most Ghanaians would be a wonderful call, but let's face reality. The exchange rate may be more favorable now, but beyond that, inflation has only come down by a very little percentage. Some of the other metrics in the system, fuel prices, yes, maybe some stability in there. But people can also, traders can point to other things and say, look, we've not, we don't have a perfect system. Why should we not get what is due us? And if prices fall, or if the exchange rate gets much better, then we can take it there. How do you react to such people?
You see, the factors of pricing varies. And then the major factor, one of the major factors is the exchange rate. The way the rates have gone down is quite significant. You see, when we are paying duty, it's benchmarked with this same dollar, and we are saving something from the duty payment, and then we also save something when we are we are exchanging this money. So definitely we have some gain, even though that's why we also call on the government to reduce on certain things. But then also when we show good faith like this, then we can also go on government and hold him that you have to do this, and then use this as a reference. Because if we are able to do this and show good faith, then government will also listen to us on other things, especially with regards to electricity bills. I've been talking about it. There was no justification for us to increase the ECDA bills. The PURC did not do a good job, especially when the exchange rate is coming down, because they cited the exchange rate as one reason for increasing the ECD. Otherwise, these are some of the things that is going to negate the gain. For us, we are appealing to our members, but as you said, there are other costs regarding calculation of our prices.
Right.
And so we have to look at all those things comprehensively. But then we want to show good faith. And then, because this thing that I'm saying is even very tricky, because there are some people who are still here to adjust, because maybe they bought their goods at the old rate, and they are yet to settle. But sometimes we have to strike reasonable averages so that we can remain in business. Our market is not a monopolistic one, where one business person will say that because I have the goods, I can increase my price anywhere. Ours is a liberalized one, highly competitive one, where one particular item you see about 2,000 people selling it.
Right.
If you do not adjust your prices and you overprice yourself out at this particular time, you overprice yourself out of the market.
Okay.
Especially if your goods are perishable and all that.
All right.
So the prudence here is for you to adjust to the trend so that you can still remain in competition. Yeah, so we are just appealing.
Right.
But then the reason why people cost is varying, and that you cannot actually force anybody also on that.
Dr. Bing, two things I just want you to quickly leave us with. One, there also are those who say, I imported my products into the country. The exchange rate was at a certain point. It's only in recent times, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the fall, especially as we see it now, has taken effect. For such people, if they say, look, I can't justifiably do this now because I'll run into a loss. No one does business to lose. That's one point. How do you react to that? And the other point is the executive director of ISA, the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, Professor Peter Quartey, calling on government to adopt policy measures that will help regulate the prices of food items on the market. Some have said price regulation. Can we do that? What do you think about these 2 points? And we can say
not even the socialist countries can do price control. That method is obsolete. It doesn't work.
Okay.
Nobody can actually control the prices of which people sell their goods. You see, what I'm doing is just appealing to our members and urging them so that the consuming public will have the confidence and trust and faith in us. So that next time when we say that prices are high because of these factors, they will trust us. That's all that I'm doing. But we cannot tell anybody to reduce his or her price. It doesn't happen. And when you do that, that will bring the shortages of goods. Because if you give price that is not competitive to me, I will not go and bring the goods. If government have to control prices, then government have to bring the goods himself.
Okay.
And then put a negligible difference on it, or even subsidize his own self and sell to the consuming public. But we are business people. We do business for profit, and that nobody can price goods.
Quickly on the point of those who talk about
obsolete. It doesn't even exist in the socialist says who used to do those things. You remember during the Champon regime, where this price control induced smuggling, and then what we call kalabule and other things, hoarding and all that. It's not the best of things to do.
All right. The other bit about those who say, look, I imported at a certain exchange rate. I can't sell it at a lower price. What would you say quickly on that?
Yeah, they are right. Especially those who are even in the market. Let me tell you how the market works. We have the retailers. They do not have anything to do with this exchange rate because they fall on the importers. The importers are the ones who have direct benefits with or disadvantage with the exchange rate fluctuations. And so once this thing has happened, the importers, especially those who are now buying their goods, who are paying their old debt and all that, they are all going to benefit, and they will be able to transfer these gains that I'm talking about. But the retailer who does not import directly, he has already bought the goods, and the dollar does not even affect it. So the person has to sell off some of the goods before we can go to the supplier, the importer, to go and buy the goods again.
Right.
And so these things are complex, and that's why most times we said that prices will adjust by itself.
Okay.
Because of the competition that we have, and because there are so many people in the market. We say that we have the consumers, the market that we have is a consumers market. It's not the sellers market. So you, the consumer, have to exploit the market, find where the prices have been adjusted, and reward the person, and punish the person whose price is still high. Okay. And so, in that regard, I always appeal to my members that in situations like this, you have to strike in reasonable averages. The prices that you got at the old price, the ones that you got at the new price, have some reasonable average and sell it so that you do not overprice. Because if your goods get longer to sell, you are unable also to pay or service your debts at the bank. Right. Yeah. So it's appeal and we are education that we are doing.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining the conversation, Dr. Obeng. We're grateful for your time. That is Dr. Joseph Obeng. He is president of GUTA, the Ghana Union of Traders Association. Let me come into the studio and take your quick thoughts, if you have any, on this bit before we get into the next stack of papers. Vicky, would you like to have a bite on Dr. Obeng's position?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, the last point that was made about if someone has bought something at a particular exchange rate, then clearly they cannot sell it below, because if they do that, their business is going to collapse. Of course, we welcome the strong exchange rate, the strengthening of the cedi at the moment, and government needs to do whatever it can to maintain that position, because there are, yes, government has played a part in it, by managing our public expenditure in a better way, etc., etc. But there have also been some externalities which have helped to bring about this position. We all want to see our grocery shopping prices go down. And so I think that they will have to, I guess if they sell this latest batch of goods, they will have to now toe the line, because they are very quick to increase prices.
Right.
Very quick to increase prices when the exchange rate goes up, or when there's a fuel increase or anything that has a direct knock-on effect on their pricing. They are very quick to pass it on to us. So the opposite should also hold true.
They must be very quick to lower as well when the times are favorable.
Absolutely.
Wanda?
Well, I support their call, but we want it a bit more urgent. Why? Because they're just going to wait again when there is an increment. Then with the windfall they've made right now, nobody gets to benefit, and then they are increasing again. So I would think that some urgency would benefit us all. Again, I also hope that this will be sustained in the longer run. Say,
what will be sustained? The surge of the cedi?
No, the cedi's stability at this moment. It's not just the going down. We want it to be stable. You see, even if it's going down every other day, it also doesn't help in pricing. But if it comes to 13 and stops at 13, and you're able to plan within that, it helps even government itself in its entitled commitment to our international partners and trade and all that stuff. So indeed, the finance minister is doing very well. The Bank of Ghana, in collaboration with the finance ministry, they're doing very well.
Thank you for those thoughts. Quickly, Amanda.
I think a lot of businesses have existing inventories bought at a higher rate. You know what I mean? So if they lower it, it's definitely going to go against them. So that wouldn't work if they have an existing inventory.
Okay.
And furthermore, we do commend the finance minister and hope this lasts. But if it doesn't, it could be a temporary nature of the cedi's strength. You know what I mean? So to make such drastic actions and not know, it takes a month or two to see if this is where it's really going in terms of maintaining the cedi's strength. You see what I mean? So we shouldn't have such drastic trade actions, and perhaps just like structural economic reforms in general is a better way to address this, basically.
Right. Let me do Wanda. I know Amanda did it, so let me come to a gentleman. Quickly on with your papers.
My papers. Forest mining ends now.
You want to start from Sankofa? That's the paper you have now.
Yeah, I have Sankofa in front of me. Forest mining ends now. Mahama moves to permanently ban all mining in reserves. I think there's been talk about the LI and the Act itself. You see, the LI...
What's happening to it?
The LI is only giving oxygen to the mining acts, largely. And so what the president seeks to do is, first of all, go after the mining act itself, resolve the issues, and then come to the LI. And I know that is in progress, I'm told, and that Parliament has started some work.
You're told.
In
when the promise was made about LI 2462, I'm sure you are aware of the Minerals and Mining Act as well. When the promise was made in terms of doing away with LI 2462.
No, that's not the debate right now. That's not the debate. We're talking about a holistic solution to our mining challenges. Mining in forest reserve, washing off into our river bodies, and the knock-on effect that we have in terms of the health challenges. So the president is taking a more holistic approach. Yes, we did promise that we'll repeal the LI, right? Right? You agree? We did that.
I mean, it's not a dispute, so that's why I'm not. Everybody knows.
Yeah,
it.
so we are 4 years in office, and I'm saying that there's a process, and that process has begun. When the president was talking to the 120-day promise, he specifically said that will be.
I was just about to go there because there were some timelines as well in respect of
that will be taken care of. There's no fears about that. If I promise 120 days and I've delivered up to 90% of my promises,
in the end, we just want LI 2462.
Why the fear? The LI,
that's the bottom line.
That will go. It's not a problem at all. And so I think that is in order. I'm told that WHO supports Ghana's Ministry of Health. I think that the Ministry of Health is going through a lot of challenges. A lot of suppliers have not been paid. They are debt reading and all that. So some of these supports are very welcome. A healthy nation is a wealthy nation. And so we are expecting that some of these things go through as quickly as possible. The Guta issue we have already touched on. And then I'm told that some 3 students of UDS are turning tomatoes into opportunity. I'm told that they are converting into wine or something of the sort. We should be able to help. These are the things that should fall within the purview of the government's agenda on the supporting, startup businesses and all that. So I think that we should encourage some of these things. It will help eventually the country, it will help our economy, it will help our foreign exchange and all that. So
let me ask you this, partly because cashew is there's so much that can be done from it. The fruit can actually be used for some liqueurs and all of that. But since you're mentioning tomatoes, have you had tomato juice before?
Yeah, I have.
You have? Yeah. I'm sure we all have, right?
Yeah, we do.
I mean, if you mention that here, a lot of people don't. Reminds me of that Osibisa song.
No, you see,
an awful lot of coffee in Brazil.
Of what
no tomato juice.
It's not juice. This is wine.
Wine.
Yes.
Right.
It's not juice. It's wine they're getting from the tomatoes, not juice. I mean, juice, we can all do that at the back of our kitchen and all that. That's not a problem. I can get
Do you see any entity? That's the whole point I'm making. Do you see any entity producing tomato juice like locally in Ghana? That's my point.
Well, there are a few challenges, and I have to admit. You see, perishable goods, when it comes to their adding value, it's a different ballgame altogether. When what's the name of this company that does the fruit juice around in Sao?
Sky.
When Skyview came to Ghana, they're Blue Skies. They had a lot of challenges. It took them some time to really look at the preservation, the consumption level, how much do I produce, how much doesn't go into waste and all that. So indeed, government will have to support in some of this when it comes to production and in terms of perishables.
Right.
And so I'm not surprised, but we will get there someday. But a more conscious effort, led by government by itself, would help us to unearth some of these, new developments when it comes to production.
I don't know what the rest of you think, Vicky, because I'm thinking, particularly because we have these perishables, a lot of which rot on the market, that would be quite an avenue, right, to prevent some of these wastage or losses. You can actually get into those markets so that those that don't make it to the market, we could have a system where, okay, we can use some for juice, we can convert some into this, and in the end, they don't waste away.
Yes.
Any thoughts?
No, I like the innovation of turning it into wine. I haven't heard of that before, so it would be interesting to taste that. And also, in Rwanda, they have the regular tomato juice, and they also have tree tomato juice, which is interesting. So yes, we have to do something about our perishables. You go around Somanya Dodwa area during the mango season and you see them all rotting over there.
Yeah.
And we have to do better. I mean, we cannot afford, number one, that kind of wastage. and number two, zero kind of support to turn these things into something that can actually be commercialized,
Which also reminds me of the specific uses of cherry tomatoes, Amanda. All these varieties can be used for different things. And
But I mean, I really agree with what Wanda said in terms of sometimes it is seeing what people like or companies like Blue Skies have gone through in terms of it's taken years or, it took them a while to figure out how to preserve the juice, etc., and how much consumption is and things like that. So if these other companies are starting, they shouldn't start from scratch, but perhaps take the market research, adapt it to their model in terms of wine is expensive, you know what I mean? So they're obviously aiming at a higher price point. And just learning lessons from Blue Skies in terms of preservation, even though it's a different, it's tomatoes and it's, juice and things like that. So we shouldn't start again from scratch. And it's great that if government is looking to support, Ghanaian initiatives like this, particularly because, people want to be innovative to take it globally.
All right. Vicky, would you like to do one paper? Then I'll get back to Wanda with his last paper and do yours as well.
Okay, sure. So the Today paper is the first one here. And the headlines are PPP demands independent audit into all special operations expenditure of intelligence funds from 2019 to 2024. Ghana's credit rating witnesses an upgrade from SD status to CCC+ status. And the Guta story, which we've already done. And an interesting one here, Trump calls for 20,000 new officers to aid deportations. And he says that illegal aliens who stay in America face punishments, including significant jail time, enormous financial penalties, confiscation of all their property, garnishing of all their wages, imprisonment and incarceration, and sudden deportation in a place and manner solely of our discretion. So that is very draconian. So the two that I'd like to talk about are the call for, there's the statement by the PPP's chairman, national chairman, on the misuse of intelligence funds and the need for accountability.
On the back of the NSB, former NSB bosses
situation. And I mean, I agree with that. You cannot do wrong and hide behind national security. We don't know the full details of the story. We've heard snippets of it, and then, of course, we've seen what is supposedly his own letter, et cetera, et cetera. And it's all very disturbing. I find it all extremely disturbing. If what we have seen is true, I don't understand how you can mix personal finances with national security finances or funds.
The point is made that this other bank account was known by the general security apparatus and that it was accepted and all of that. Because people have asked, how could this have been going on with the other intelligence agencies? It's coordinated. Someone must have known.
Exactly. And the role that UMB played in all of this. And how can you have your wife involved? I mean, as if saying that, oh, she was vetted, suddenly makes it okay. So there are so many different areas of total opaqueness that I think that if we have something, I think that the audit is in order, the call for audit is in order, because as Ghanaian citizens and as taxpayers, we all want to know what is being done with our money. And there also has to be clarity. Okay. I mean, these funds are supposed to be audited anyway, and Parliament is supposed to have an oversight. It's not as if it's a carte blanche to do whatever you want. And wasn't someone punished for doing exactly the same thing or something similar, using national security funds to do something other than the purpose for which it was originally authorized? So we need to be careful, because
I think indeed there was something
they were
similar.
actually in prison. I think William Tavy or somebody. I can't remember.
There has been some precedent on that.
And then the second story is on this Trump call to aid deportations. I think that, it's if you are in America at this time as an illegal immigrant I think it's time to advise yourself. And even if you are not an illegal immigrant, maybe it's time to advise yourself anyway.
All right.
Thank
you for those quick thoughts. We have very limited time, so please go into your second paper briefly if you have any story you'd like to do there.
Oh, with me.
Before I go back to
there was one which I would have liked to have done, but the pages have been are not here. So.
Oh, okay. Which one is that?
Yahota Maklo's new book raises questions about Rawlings' death, but from page 8 to 19, it's missing and it's on there. The rest of it is Mahama's speech on his 120-day social contract. And then the expectation that a lot of MPP executives will be asked to step down.
Okay. Well, there is something in the book in respect of that. You can actually grab a copy of the book. It was launched on Wednesday. You can grab your copy and get those details if you're curious. Wanda, quick thoughts on your last newspaper.
I'm particularly excited about the Bonkra project.
Which paper is this? The Ghanaian publisher?
This is the Ghanaian publisher.
Right.
I understand Ghana's Shippers Authority have begun works, to resume works. It started somewhere in the 90s. 2003, President Kufuor tried to put it into focus, and then it suffered a lot of, financial inadequacy, and so the project came to a standstill at a certain point in time. But now, I'm told it's on course, and we should get that going. That will change the face of transport, logistics in the Ashanti region, which is supposed to be the central part, hub of our country,
right,
and all that.
Okay, so let me quickly get into my papers very, very quickly. Daily Graphic, disallowed expenditure, Auditor General recovers 12.7 billion Ghana cedis. Free passport delivery service commences. Resolve Ghana-Togo maritime dispute. That's according to Major General Kotia. On the back page, Amwes late header sends Kotoko to MTN FA Cup final. And Golden Kick make history with MTN FA Cup final berth. And if you watched the Classico yesterday, it was pretty interesting, wasn't it? A hat-trick for Kylian Mbappe, but not enough as Yamin Lamal and others ensured that Barcelona maybe secured the title by about 95+%. But let me do this story. The Office of the Auditor General has recovered 12.7 billion Ghana cedis out of 38.9 billion Ghana cedis disallowed expenditures flagged in audit reports between 2020 and 2023. This represents 32% of the amount flagged by the Auditor General to be disallowed and recovered for the period of the special audit exercise. The Auditor General's report indicated that the 12.7 billion Ghana cedis of the disallowed expenditure for the period was recovered from public boards, ministries, departments and agencies, technical universities, internally generated funds, pre-university institutions, and the District Assembly's Common Fund. You can get more details from the paper, which also reminds me of Daniel Odomelevo and some of the work he did before he had to step aside, because we are looking at 2020 to 2023. Then there's the story of the top Liberian doctor who has been struck out now. His issue is an interesting story. Rise above partisanship. President Mahama tasks National Peace Council. That story is on page 18. And then page 16, gas system on FPSO Kwame Nkrumah trips, cuts gas supply to Ituabo. And there's been talk about resolving this issue as well. In the Business and Financial Times, CD rally cutting foreign debt load as gold windfall, fiscal tightening and post-election stability bolster confidence. Cosmos Energy pledges $2 billion investment in petroleum sector, and government prioritizes trade standards. Ladies, gentlemen, any quick thoughts? And we'll be leaving. Amanda, starting with you.
I like that title, Rise Above National Partisan. I think the nation thinking positively and working together collectively for a good purpose is better than division and negativity and bringing down other people. And with what was said about, Trump's laws, I think it's a real shame, because America had at one point been at the forefront of establishing international norms and good things to happen, and yet this draconian policy is unfortunate. But above all, I mean, the prison system in America is $1 billion industry. So if you are saying that you're going to be imprisoning even people who haven't committed a crime per se, you know, but you could just deport them. It basically means you want to feed into even more of a billion-dollar industry.
Right.
And the labor of America is built of immigrants, as Trump knows, because that's how he built most of his hotels in America, with cheap labor.
All
so
right.
it's very unfortunate, that policy. And I think, you know, the world looks forward to a new administration to just establish some sort of international norms.
All right. I've also just been prompted that the Chief of Staff has summoned Sammy Gyamfi over the cash gift to Agradaa. Your final thoughts?
Yeah, so I already told you that internally, some, you know...
That was just by the side. Just go with your final thoughts.
Confirm that some work have, you know, begun on that matter, and
Right.
we should see an end to that, you know, all in the benefits and the interest of Ghana as a whole. I think that Trump seems to have a lot of enemies all the time. But I'm an admirer of Trump. I believe in his energy to protect his own, his American dream. And it may not sound too good to everybody, which I think he knows, but he's still on his journey towards recovery of what he calls the Great America. So that said, the Finance Ministry, I want to ask for some support from them to sustain this dollar CD debate.
Right. Point made. On Trump, all I can say is, you know that proverb, "Ifutu nsacha nipa, jensoshe." Vicky Bright, final words, and then we have to go.
Yeah, the one good thing about Trump, though, I mean, I don't agree with everything he does, but the one good thing is that I think it should, if it's not, focus Africa on its own development, because that's the only way to prevent people just going out there, you know, these visa issues being turned down, going out there, disrespect, calling us the name that you said we can't say on air, you know, and all that. So I think Africa really is about time that we stood on our own ground. You know, this abolishing aid to Africa, I think it's you know, it really should help us to help ourselves, because we are the only ones who can change the course of our continent.
Right.
Yeah, and of course, I'm very happy about the stability of the city, and I commend the Finance Ministry for all the hard work they're doing in that regard. And I'm also happy that the Chief of Staff has called Sammy Gyamfi to have a discussion with him on this matter.
Right. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. We have to give way to sports up next, but those who joined us, Victoria Bright. Which do you prefer, Vicky Bright or Victoria Bright?
You know, I've gotten used to both now. Those who went to school with me, those who have known me since I was a kid call me Victoria. And I guess those who have known me later call me Vicky. So I respond to
I think I'll stick to the Vicky. Vicky Bright. So Vicky Bright is a lawyer and entrepreneur. She's a legal practitioner, of course. Amanda Clinton is head of chambers of Clinton Consultancy, and Wanda Madilo is with the NDC's communications team. It's been a classic 4 matches won by Barcelona over Real Madrid, Los Blancos. But anyway, sports is coming up next. Muftau Nabila Abdullah will be telling you everything you need to know. We'll be right back.
We bring you sports now on the AM show with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullah, and Ghana's 4x1 relay team. They have made it to the Tokyo World Athletics Championships that will be happening in September later this year. The quartet of Barnabas Age, Ibrahim Fuseni, Joseph Paul Amoa, and Bokpin did a time of 38.32 seconds, which is their season's best this year, to finish second behind France, securing a ticket to the World Championships in Tokyo.
Qualify for Tokyo from these 3 heats of the men's 4x1. This is competitive. Some very strong teams, and only 2 of them can make Tokyo. Ghana have gone flying out on the opening leg with Barnabas Aga. Changes. Ghana, no, not the best change. They have still got the baton. The athlete is juggling the baton down the back straight there. He's still just about got hold of it. Trying to make up the ground now on France, who are going strongly. Not a smooth change from France. Not a smooth change on the outside either. Switzerland have gone. France and Ghana outside them. Korea run on the outside as well. And the Netherlands have gone too, by the way, as France into the home straight with Aymeric Priam. The second place up for grabs. Ghana against Korea. Only one of them will qualify. Ghana storming through. And it's going to be tight on the line who got there. They're both off to Tokyo.
And that finish of 38.32 seconds behind France secured Ghana a ticket to the World Championships later this year. The Black Satellites will be in action later tonight against Egypt. That game's right in the afternoon. It kicks off at 3 p.m. Ghana time, and they are seeking a ticket to the FIFA World Cup. That will also be happening later this year. Their head coach, Desmond Ofer, has described the match against Egypt later today as a final.
It's a final. It's a final. I think it's a golden ticket. Everybody wants this ticket, and I'm sure the host nation will do everything in their ability to also win the game. But all in all, we have to show that we are the better team. I think we are not only playing a team, we are playing the nation, we are playing against history. So we have to be on our very best tomorrow to make sure that at the end of 90 minutes plus extra time, we are the winners of the game. They've got some incredible players. Looking at the captain, Ahmed Kabaka, incredible player. He's the engine of the team. Good passer of the ball, technically very good. Omar Kader from Aston Villa, can play on the left wing, can play on the 10, also very, very good player. But they have good players, so we just have to respect them, respect the team. We have to be on our very best. We know our qualities. We have to stay true to ourselves, our DNA, our philosophy. The boys, I want to give it up also to the boys. They're working really hard. They are very hungry, and they want to show the nation that you know, this is the future of our football. So we're going to do everything in our power to try and give an incredible performance.
Meanwhile, striker Jerry Afriyie, who left the team's camp on Friday to Spain to play for his club, made a return yesterday to be part of the team for the quarter-final clash that will be happening later today. To the FA Cup, where Golden Kick secured a ticket to the final of the competition after beating Atram Divisor by 3-1. And Kumasi Asante Kotoko, they left it late against Brecum Chelsea to join Golden Kick in the final of the FA Cup.
Something under his sleeves, but then for me, Samuel Boadu will be more focused on attacking from the first to the end in the game. So for me, the Brecum Chelsea strength is their attack ahead of the game.
We'll be heading straight into the lineup pretty soon. Both clubs or both players from these two sides. I'm on 15th June 2025 at the University of Ghana Stadium. Patrick Essiedu, who elects himself to pick that one up for Kumasi Asante Kotoko. Patrick Essiedu against one-man wall, stands one in, who is there to do the final cornership ball, floats away, but still in danger zone. And finally, Albert Amwa was there to do the final connection for Kumasi Asante Kotoko. The goal was coming, and on the 80th minute mark, Albert Amwa quickly redeems himself of all the errors. That free kick was sent in by Patrick, and then it was sent back. Kotoko picked up the rebound, and Albert Amwa was there to increase Byzantium FA Cup goal tally to 3. Kumasi Asante Kotoko are a goal up, and the Bibis are wallowing in pain at this point in time. Unbelief for Samuel Boadu.
Albert Amwa has pulled a rabbit out of nowhere. It was a great delivery from Patrick. He made sure, he's been waiting for it all this while, and now he's got something to cheer about. It was a great delivery, and he got his head to it, and there is it, Kumasi Asante Kotoko lead on the 80th mark.
The last time these two sides played in Kumasi, it ended 1-0. Are they going to repeat that here at the Takwana Bosu Stadium? The irony, however, is when Kotoko played medium ISC here when this particular...
Here comes Jail. You want to go for the drive. He's been taken away as goalkeeper comes out to scoop it up. And what is it, ladies and gentlemen? That is the white smoke out of the chimney. An error on the part of goalkeeper. Can he get inside the 18? Places slips in the ball. Could it be two? And yes!
He's trying against his former son. He's moved from a Atram Divisa to Golden Kick. And so it shouldn't be difficult. He's moved this side.
And ladies and gentlemen, Golden Kick casually are still in Atram Divisa.
And this was how Golden Kick defeated Atram Divisa by 3-1 to make it to the final of the FA Cup. That will also be happening next month. To some women's football now. And La Liga, they say that they are committed to the development of women's football in Ghana. During a women's football summit at the UPSC, La Liga says that women's football in Ghana is on the rise and they are proud to be a part of it. My colleague Razak Musbawa was there and has details in this report.
Afternoon of insight, strategy and shared passion as stakeholders from across the football spectrum gathered to discuss the next phase of growth for women's football, with a focus on marketing, development and visibility. The event featured an all-women panel, including the Chief Executive Officer of Azaka's Ladies, Evelyn Nsia Asari. Each speaker offered a unique perspective on how to elevate the women's game across the country.
The going down of women's football is one reason field. All the field or all the lands that were earmarked for that purpose are now being put to a different use. They are building houses. There are no enough places where if you are even bored within your house, you can go there and play football. So that is the reason why we are not developing. If we can start, the president, the government, and I'm very happy that now, for the first time, we have a vice president who is a woman. I believe that she will take this women football thing as a project.
Club owners, they have a lot of work to do. It is not just about you having the passion to establish a club and then you have about 30 female players. You know that they don't even have the right food to eat. They don't have the good facilities to train. The equipment are not there. You keep them there and they are not giving us the top quality football. Obviously, nobody will watch. And that is the problem now. Let's look at what the Europeans are doing. You see content from their training ground. You see them doing things in their dressing rooms, camps, everything. We see their rivals and everything. But Ghana, we don't see those things. It's only few clubs who are doing it. And I think Azakes is one of the clubs. And recently I saw that they attracted one betting company and other sponsorship deals, and which is good.
So if you're not putting yourself out there, there's no way anybody else would want to watch what you have to offer. So education of our football administrators, especially those in the women's football, they need to understand that in 1990 you could do women's football because it's something you're passionate about. In 2025, you need to do it because it's business. And if it's business, you need to put all those measures in place to be able to push your brand to a level that people want to associate with.
For La Liga, the dialogue forms part of a broader commitment to football development and gender inclusion. And for UPSA, the collaboration aligns with its mission to use education as a tool for empowerment.
The discussions have to continue. It's not, we're not going to make changes overnight, but I believe that with constant, continuous discussions from our leaders, from our directors and people who send us to do the work, and we'll find a way. We'll definitely come to a point where we can take women football to where we want it to be, and then we're going to be happy at the end of the day.
And it's very important to also push women in football just like we push men in football. The women football is actually also very important, just that poor branding has made it look like they are not really popular and people don't really take time to watch them, but they are also quite important. And to the audience out there, I believe if you take time to watch women football, you will enjoy it just like you watch the men football and enjoy it as well.
As conversations turn into action, stakeholders are hopeful, calling for increased investment, stronger leagues, and greater appreciation for the women's game across the continent.
Welcome back on the AM Show. We get into our big stories. Just a reminder that the AM Show is sponsored by Waylead Properties. We provide quality housing at an affordable cost and with a flexible payment option. But coming up next, it's been 124 days now, 1,460 left for President Mahama. We ask, what comes next after the 120-day social contract? In fact, how does President Mahama consolidate and sustain the gains the government touts it has gained to have made, as well as satisfying the aspirations of the Ghanaian people? We're talking about the fight against corruption, the assets declaration coupled with a code of conduct for political appointees, the fight against galamsey, the 24-hour economy, and more, including unemployment as well. We'll be discussing these issues and more with our guests. Joining us, we have Shamima Muslim. She's a deputy spokesperson for government, presidential spokesperson. And then we have John Osai Kwapong, Dr. John Osai Kwapong. He's a CDD fellow. Both of them join Sweetie Abochi and yours truly. Good morning.
Good morning. Apparently, I haven't been by since. Is that the case?
Since you went somewhere.
But I've been on the platform multiple times.
Oh, we've seen you on the platform.
With us.
We've just not seen you here.
Here.
And I'll say Emre Dani.
Emre Dani, Davy.
Emre Dani.
Oh, Davy. Same. Why?
Doc, last time I saw you were at a certain party, and today we're here continuing.
Yes, I was.
With it. Anyway.
Well, so let's get the conversation started. Like Ben said, 124 days into the return as President of the Republic, John Dramani Mahama clearly has reached a key milestone. Yeah. We just finished assessing his 120-day social contract. But let's revisit that briefly. And I want to take your assessment, Dr. John Osai Kwapong, of the 120 days, and then we can segue into the conversation proper. How would you assess the 120 days of, well, should I say 24 days now as we're speaking, of President John Dramani Mahama in office?
Thank you very much. For me, I've been saying that as I observe the second presidency of John Mahama, I believe he's trying to make sure that it looks distinct from the first presidency. And partly, I believe that is also driven by some of the challenges and some of the lessons learned from the first presidency. So on matters of governance, you can tell that he's trying to set a different tone, give different signals on how he plans to deal with some of our governance challenges. So I would highlight, for example, the Constitution Review Commission. There's been a lot of conversations over the years about some of the issues, challenges with constitutional architecture. And so the move to do something about it, I think, is something in the right direction. I know we'll get into the code of conduct, but that's also another important issue for me as another tool in the basket that can be used to address issues of integrity, corruption, appropriate behavior of public officers in office.
Right.
On the economy, which was central to the NDC's campaign in 2024, I mean, I know that with the budget, the targets that have been set, the indications that have been given in areas that the government wants to prioritize are in the right direction. What I'm still waiting for, and I know the president gave an update on where they are with the 24-hour economy, but that remains for me a critical piece of the president's economic agenda, given how central it was to their 2024 campaign.
Hopefully, Shamima is here and will provide some insight because we want to interrogate the roadmap. I mean, after 120 days, what's next, Shamima? But I want to give you the chance to reflect on a trending topic, Sammy Gyamfi, and that video we saw with Agradaa. What did you make of it? I know that he's apologized, but people are still calling for his head.
Right.
What do you make of it?
Well, thank you very much. And I'm sure that because I may not get the opportunity to do it again, let me just, first of all, express our deep gratitude to the people of Ghana for their cooperation, collaboration, and participating in the public discourse. We are very excited at the new chapter that we have all ushered in, new chapter of real democracy where, you know, the public discourse is encouraged and citizens are encouraged to truly participate in these vital conversations that, you know, elicit sometimes great solutions. And so we are very happy that many Ghanaians, including the opposition New Patriotic Party, has taken the invitation of His Excellency to feel free to express themselves through whatever legal vehicle is available to them, and that includes protestations.
Yeah.
And so we have seen them already, you know, conduct 2 protestations to test, you know, the commitment of His Excellency to this new era of freedoms on the side of citizens. And so we are happy about also the feedback we have received after His Excellency presented to the people of Ghana, in whom sovereignty really, you know, resides, his social contract. He was not obliged to. It was a commitment he made upon himself to serve him well in terms of the urgency he himself was bringing to the new, you know, to the task of the presidency. And also to prove to the people of Ghana that when we came to them and we called on them to vote for experience over experiment, this is really what we meant. We meant that there's going to be a new era informed largely by lessons learned from the previous experience, and that deep knowledge about how the system works and where the leakages were and what the right sets of approaches should be is what informed even our manifesto, which was really resetting Ghana for jobs, accountability, and prosperity. So if you look at the 120-day promises, it focuses on our key priority areas that we believed if we were quickly able to put the strong and the right foundations in, the reset agenda will well be on course. And I'm really happy at the feedback from all well-meaning and fair-minded Ghanaians that indeed we have shown some real progress, and really what we are expecting from now on is a further consolidation of the gains. And
in fact, that's the purpose of this conversation.
Yes.
So that, I mean, you speak for the government as well, so you can also give us some insight. But
Definitely.
we need to get the conversation going.
Yes.
I was asking about your reflections
and it's
on,
part of the Sammy Gyamfi matter.
Yes.
It's part of, I think that for everybody, self-awareness is very important. And I think one of the values of great leadership is self-awareness. Self-awareness to be able to look back at an action of yours, whether it's a private action that has become a public matter, in the case of this Sammy Gyamfi issue, to be able to have the presence of mind to recognize where the indiscretion might have occurred, and to, without any prompting, come out to acknowledge, you know, the mistake that may have been made, the optics of a private moment now played out, you know, in the public for everyone to see and have opinions about reasonably. What we would want to say is that as a government, the Chief of Staff has since invited Sammy Gyamfi to come and speak to this matter. And so the Chief of Staff
when
in the
exactly
Office of the Presidency. Pardon?
When exactly is Sammy showing up?
Oh, I'm sure today. It's an urgent matter. So
I'm just asking because you walk the corridors of power, so you would know when.
This happened over the weekend, as you know. So the invitation has gone to Sammy to show up. And because of the respect he has to the office, I'm sure that he will be showing up today. But also to add to the fact that it comes at the back of the launch of a new code of conduct. And if you look at the code of conduct, there are a number of sanctions for whatever identified acts of indiscretion or wrongdoing. It ranges from an apology, a public apology for that maybe stated misbehavior or misconduct, to a formal reprimand, which we know that the apology has already even come without the prompting of anyone. An invitation has come, so if a reprimand is in order, I'm sure that we would hear what decision government will take. It also even includes resignation or suspension. And then ultimately, when the conduct is of very severe nature, sometimes even bordering on criminality, you may be asked to go through termination.
Okay.
And so there are lessons for all of us public office holders in how we balance the public expectation of good. And this was one of the reasons why on your similar platform, when the issue of the value of gifts receiving, and again, the feedback we are getting. So in our code of conduct, it is mostly about receiving gifts, okay? And where the conversation is about gift giving, it's around the issue of hampers. So this time we need to go back again and have a conversation about gifts giving from you, the public office holder, and what the parameters of, being generous and, responding to. Look, when we go to places, your cars are swarmed by people asking for all kinds of things. And so when I said somewhere else that in a day, the expenses, and you people have done these democracy watch activities over years. And I've said that beyond having deeper conversations about political party financing and campaign financing, we must have an open, transparent conversation about governance financing, because once somebody transcends into public office, there is a lot of expectation to solve not only the long-term problem, but the immediate needs of people. And that
in this
cannot be described as being insensitive, because to not respond to these demands would rather present you as being non-responsive to the needs of the people that you say that you serve.
Okay.
So let us learn the lessons as public officers and see if we can find a balance between what the public itself expects from us. I think largely in Sammy's case, it is the recipient. It's the recipient of that
talk about,
gift that has created this brouhaha.
We'll talk about the fight against corruption as a declaration, code of conduct, like you mentioned, and the 24-hour economy and the issues of unemployment. But Doc, brief take on this matter before we get into the topic of corruption.
So I've always said that our public officials always have to pass two tests, what I call the legal test and the appearance test. They tend to do well on the legal test, right? Anytime an issue erupts, you're first pointed to the law. Did he or she do anything wrong? Has he or she broken any law? What gets them into some of these unfortunate situations is the appearance test. And when you're in public office, you have to even pay more attention to the way things look, because that is where you even end up losing a lot more goodwill and trust. So my thing is, I'm glad that the Chief of Staff has summoned him. I'm glad that he apologized. There's a code of conduct in place. Whatever the appropriate sanctions are, I just hope that the president will demonstrate, swiftness in dealing with this in terms of applying the appropriate sanction, so that at least he can show that, look, this code of conduct that we have instituted, it's a policy that we intend to reinforce. And it's a lesson to all current public officials as well, right? That nobody is against you being generous. But you also have to put it within the right context and know that it can have certain unintended consequences.
You speak of appropriate sanctions. What would be appropriate from where you sit?
Appropriate, at most, suspension.
At most?
Yes.
Suspension?
Yes, at most.
At most?
Yes.
Worst case scenario?
Worst case scenario, yes.
So those who are saying he should be sacked and the rest, what do you say to them?
No, and in fact, to quickly also revisit the code of conduct, I think one of the things the code of conduct needs to do now is the last section on measures of violation. I think it needs a lot more clarity and specificity around things like first offense, appropriate sanction, even depending on the type of offense. So for example, if you improperly file a government document, right, do you get the same sanction versus if you engage in an act of corruption or a conflict of interest? Do you see what I'm saying? You need a lot more clarity so that, it's like one strike, this is the appropriate penalty, two strikes, this is the appropriate penalty, in this area, this is the appropriate penalty. But I wouldn't go that extreme of...
But I think even with the code of conduct, there are certain steps, a reprimand, and then certain things follow. to the point where there could be a resignation and a termination. Just because you mentioned the code of conduct.
Right.
If you asked me, I mean, I was disappointed over the weekend. A lot of people, passed comments on that, and I feel quite a bit of them justified. Yes, he did the right thing by apologizing. Yes, it's another right step for the Chief of Staff, Julius Deborah, to invite him, give him the summons. But I feel that was poor judgment. It's not to say that we understand the cultural, aspect of it and how some things happen. But I keep saying it was clear there were phones, cameras. It was obvious that this was being, maybe it should have been taken care of in that light. But anyway, those are my quick thoughts. Shamima, so you've given some confirmation on the invitation, and that you don't know what it will entail, though.
No.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. How seriously is government taking this?
Every action, however minor or major, is taken seriously by government, as we should, because, again, one of the greatest tests of this administration would be its congruence to its stated values. And it is fair that if we set a high standard for ourselves, that Ghanaians would want to hold us to those standards, especially when we had seen really eroded standards in governance over the years. And so when you hear people recognize the progress we are making in our attempts to sanitize our governance, we know that to whom much is expected, given much is expected, even if we have brought it upon ourselves. Because again, we can't lament about deteriorating governance standards and do nothing about it. So, for example, Dr. Akwete was on Joy this weekend, and he did acknowledge the fact that since the Fourth Republic, we have never seen any sanction at all made against any public officer for breaching, say, the asset declaration regime. And that even though none of the appointees have actually breached the enabling law, which gives them at least 6 months, up to 6 months, to file their asset declaration forms. His Excellency, because of the agency with which he needed all appointees to be aligned to his values of prudence and respect for our rules, is the one that gave us the deadline of 31st of March. And because people breached it, on the day that he actually launched the code of conduct was the day, as you have said, that we need to give examples that we mean business. This second action regarding Sammy Gyamfi is not the first. The first major test was on the day of the launch, when the president announced sanctions to appointees who missed the 31st deadline, even though they had not missed the constitutional expectation of a 6-month, period.
Right.
And what was the sanction? It is quite severe. 3 months forfeiture of salary is quite severe as a first indication of seriousness to the ideals of these new resets agenda that His Excellency, has communicated to the people of Ghana. And so there is that goodwill on the side of His Excellency. What I also want to say is that we should encourage more transparency and more honesty on the side of, public office holders. I have found in my attempt to be sometimes open and honest about these matters that are vexed matters, for long periods of time, and to also communicate that even as we put these programs and plans in place, there will be room for improvement, because we can't have a perfect, guideline. Just as we even do not have a perfect constitution. 32 years on, a constitution review committee is hard at work to look at the errors. So once there is that communication of goodwill, let us all come together. And that's why His Excellency said, let us join hands.
Right.
Because the task of resetting this nation is not only a work that can be done by political leaders.
It must be done by all of us. I just have a quick follow-up. We must move the conversation forward. The president gave a deadline, which was last Wednesday, for the declaration of assets, lest you could lose your job.
Yes.
What's the latest on that? Does it mean all of the government's appointees per the law have filed their asset declaration?
They should have. They should have.
But you don't know for certain?
I don't know for certain, because we need to find out from the office of the Chief of Staff per the reports that he'll be getting from the Auditor General, who has since complied with the extended deadline, and also to indicate that that deadline is for all those who had been appointed up to the 31st of March, because new appointments are being made.
So short deadline, long deadline.
Even as we build. The point of the matter is for the new appointees, they know not to dilly-dally with the filing of their asset declaration, but there will be a reasonable expectation. And
so if we find out that some people have not declared as of today, what happens?
They should face what the president said they would, a sack is what they would face if indeed by the extended deadline they did not file, which was last Wednesday.
Well, 124 days over. Let's talk about what's next. And I want to start from the fight against corruption. According to the president of the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, Beauty Nate, Ghana loses $3 billion each year due to corruption. And the 2024 Corruption Perception Index, we scored 42. And the question on my mind is, Shamima, this is to you before I come to Doc. What concrete steps is this Mahama administration taking to fight corruption head-on? You tell us.
One is the step of self-regulation and good example. Because one of the things all of us continue to hear on a daily basis from His Excellency, which even transcended the period of his ascension to the high office, was that he's going to demand the highest level of standards and ethical conduct from first his appointees. And why we believed him then was because even in his first era, where there were some challenges, even in that era, members of his administration that were called into question for some corrupt activities were prosecuted and some were jailed. And so we believe him when he says that it's not going to be business as usual. And I think from the first two key, actions that have been taken, the foundation is set that we must watch what we do, watch our back, and most importantly, we must be vigilant, but also honest in our private dealings, because you will never know when your private dealing would become a public spectacle. One of the pillars of our manifesto was accountability. At the core of this manifesto is accountability. Also because the deteriorations we had seen in all of these accountability institutions, CDD, that Dr. Kwapong works through its Afrobarometer report, persistently had put out information and data about these deteriorations in our, public institutions, including the judiciary, including politicians. I mean, their latest one, we are seeing a bit of, some movement. And I think these actions that we are taking will further consolidate those gains if we are able to go ahead on it. So if you take the corruption, you're asking what can we do to deal with corruption? One is to show a very just and fair approach in our accountability methodology in terms of holding previous public office holders to account. And so if you see I've made a point. I actually started with ourselves. So I started that example of accountability with ourselves. So please, you accept that, concede that I started with ourselves. So this is the second one. So we can only do that much because there's an expectation from the public to hold members of the previous administration. It was one of the election oral was a mantra that in the villages, when we went there, they told us, because in their faces, in their eyes, even without the benefit of any expertise, people can feel what profligacy is. People can feel what corruption looks like on the side of public office holders whose lifestyles people knew before office and people are now assessing whilst in office. People can see how the system colludes and connives to allow those, found in public breach of some of our anti-corruption, issues are allowed to go. People can see and feel if there was commitment on the side of leaders, if presidents are the ones rather clearing, reports of corruption or misconduct on the side of people felt those things.
Quick follow-ups.
Yes.
You mentioned oral. It's been a while I heard anything concrete coming from oral, maybe some prosecutions here and there. In the first few months when you assumed office, it was all over the place in terms of the number of reports coming through and all that. Second one would be the institutions. You and I know that the Office of the Special Prosecutor is challenged. What intentional steps are you taking as, you know, this new administration
People thought that we will come and scrap the Office of the Special Prosecutor.
And replace it with oral. Yes,
it hasn't happened, isn't it?
Yeah,
so the Office of the Special Prosecution is still there, and we will empower them to do their independent work. Remember that OSP is an independent institution, you know, it's an independent constitutional entity, so it has its whole rights. What we shouldn't do is to appear as we have seen in the past and have OSPs come and sing lamentations about how they were being frustrated in their attempt to exercise their constitutional mandate. So far, you haven't heard any such complaints from the OSP. In fact, when the Attorney General, who is the public officer who has engaged the media the most since we came into power, giving you, so I'm surprised to say that you haven't heard, because the Attorney General has spoken about oral in his first, you know, media address, and gave us, you know, we are 4 months. We are in 4 months. The Attorney General came in 2 months ago, you know. So if you look at the practicality of the work and the volume of work that he has done, just last week, the Minister of Government Communication announced that 65 cases from the oral report are currently matters that are active, that individuals have been invited for questioning, that briefs are being made and they are being prepared for court.
Right.
The Attorney General has also indicated in his various engagements with the public, the various cases, including the current live case of the National Signals Bureau former head, which is in court. And we know that for a fact. So there is work going on. And if you look at our reports on all the other cases that we said, the Sputnik V and all the scandals of the previous administrations, they are all in various stages of investigation. And within reasonable time, we should be presenting dockets to the court
interesting point to make so
prosecute some of those individuals.
Just quick thoughts. Are you impressed with the work of oral so far? And she talks about timelines. For you, what are the timelines? Because some people are saying, look, it's about 1 or 2 people every 4 months, and that this is not the oral. Oral is not oralizing. What's your take?
So let me put my answer within the context of something former President Akufo-Addo always used to say about how you deal with corruption. Yes, it also hurt him in some way, but he would always say that not until you find yourself in trouble, you won't appreciate due process. The importance of due process. He spoke
about that quite a lot.
Quite a lot, right? So you would have to yes, oral is not oraling, right? But yes, I can see why politically you want to see justice being done overnight. But you also have to respect due process. Yeah. And due process will take time.
And the Attorney General has mentioned that there's quite a list of matters he's looking at.
He's looking at, he's given an update. I think he announced the first set of charges against a former official and I think his spouse. So it will take time for all of these cases to be dealt with. We do very well when we are fighting corruption on what I call post-regime accountability. So there's a turnover election, a new government comes, and they are able to look back to see what wrongs took place, alleged wrongs, and then holding such persons accountable. I think the challenge now, or the added dimension that is needed, is in regime accountability. How do you deal with your own people who are alleged to, should these matters come up, how do you deal with it?
Right.
The other part that I think we should also look a lot more at is the administrative infractions and alleged corruptions that is captured in the Auditor General's report. I mean, year after year, the infractions or the nature of the infractions are the same: procurement, financial, etc., etc. But the volume and the value of those infractions keep going. Anybody who has paid attention to the Auditor General's report over years would see that the volume of these things keep growing. And that would be one area, if you can really find a way to plug all of those I don't know if it's loopholes or whatever occasions, all the things that the auditor captures. That, for me, would be another key area.
If you look at even today's daily graphic, the disallowed expenditure and the Auditor General recouping some 12.7 billion Ghana cedis. That's out of a total sum of 38.9 billion Ghana cedis. And we are talking of 2020 to 2023. I think one of the major problems is the fact that it is usually posthumous. We allow the thing to happen before we try to recoup. And it's one of the most dangerous things because once the money is gone, it's gone. The tendency to have spent it or used it in some way is very high, and recouping it becomes a major problem. And if you look at it technically, some of the areas where we bleed the most, the very places that should be protecting, our expenditure. Look at that. Public boards, 10.79 billion. Yeah. Ministries, departments and agencies, 1.86 billion. Technical universities, internally generated funds, which are misappropriated. District assemblies, common fund. Yep. So it's quite an issue that we ought to look at. There's also the bit about, again, going back to the 120-day social contract. Shamima has espoused, she's waxed lyrical about, the gains that have been made.
Framing.
Well, you've been very,
if there's a point you disagree with, you say it, because it is either what
all I'm saying is that
fact,
you've been
very lyrical, connotes a certain
there's nothing negative
or exaggeration.
It means you've been eloquent in espousing the gains of this administration. And I'm trying to find out from him.
That's why people, I know them. Forget I was sitting on this chair.
I want to find out from you, Doc, whether you feel, you are with the CDD, right? Looking at the different percentages that have been given, government gave itself, 72%, thereabouts? The
80
MPP?
Actually.
Okay.
80 done, 20 in progress from our assessment.
The NPP scored this administration 120 days, 48%. I've seen 90%, I've seen 80%, 72%, and all of those. What is your assessment based on the metrics?
The fair assessment is it has 25, I think it lists 25 things, right? So the fair basic assessment is to say the social contract indicated these 25 things. As of the 120th day, which ones can you check off as having been done and which ones remain undone? For me, the biggest thing is what kind of signals and what kind of indication is the president giving in terms of how he wants to govern the country? Because the most important question is not necessarily the ability to have checked these things off. Important as it is, the most important thing is what difference will these things make? And on that question, you need more than just 120 days to see how the ability to have put in place a code of conduct is going to turn out and all of that. So for me, it's a question of time, and that time is not 120 days. Is it important to have set the right tone with these things in the 120-day social contract? Yes. The president, as I keep saying, is signaling that this is my priorities, this is how I want to govern the country. But there's a lot more that will be done, a lot more policies, programs that would be implemented, and it is with time that we would get to be able to see whether the administration is moving the governance and socio-economic development needle forward in positive ways.
Maybe just a brief bit before Citi comes back in. In-house, we gave a score of 52% in terms of the rate of completion. And of course, if you add those that have not yet been completed, it would balloon to about 80%. But as of what has been completed, 52%.
Right. So
now, in respect of even the gains that have been made, some people say that the real detail, like Doc was slightly alluding to, is in ensuring that we get the boons, the benefits from them, and that for some of them, it's not just ticking a box, I have done this, but the end result, the stability moving forward. What's the plan for that?
So even with your framing of 52% complete, that is not even how we look at it. For us, we look at it, all of the things that we have marked as done. So you see from my note here, is done and in progress. So we didn't use complete because a lot of those actions are not actions that can be completed. They are actions that are foundational actions to build upon the reset agenda. They are actions that communicate immediately to the people of Ghana our key priority areas of the economy, of job creation, and how we build and share prosperity for the people of Ghana. So if you look at the actions we have taken within the first 4 months, where we're able to hold the National Economic Dialogue, which inputted the budget process, and then the finance minister presented a very transformative budget that is beginning to restore confidence from both internal and external watchers. And today, we are happy at the positive signals we are seeing with our fuel prices are down. I saved 300 cedis this morning, filling my tank. Previously, I would have paid an extra 300. These are like money in people's pocket directly. Because the vision was, because of the hardships, when we come to power, our first set of policies around the economy should be around ways we can ease the immediate hardships. So the nuisance taxes, 4 of them, 3 complete, with the exception of the COVID-19, which we have explained to the understanding of fair-minded Ghanaians that it is intricately linked with our IMF program and our overall tax rationalization measures. So even as we wait to do that, the government has passed 9 more financial bills, that is going to help create greater efficiencies within the economy, including the Public Financial Management Amendment Act. There's been a VAT Amendment Act, an Income Tax Amendment Act, the uncapping of all of these NHIA levies to ensure that we commit resources to these social programs so we can ease the immediate burden. If you also look at the job creation pedestal, is to communicate head on that we accept that there's an unemployment problem, which is a threat to the security of this nation. And so we must be doing something concrete to address those problems. So what do? He sets up a youth ministry dedicated to rationalizing and mobilizing the support and interventions for the youth so we can better track and monitor progress. And so we couldn't have launched these job and youth initiatives on nothing. The real work has been done to the point where the portals are now on. So we'll mark it as done. But it is not complete because it is now left with the young people applying for the National Apprenticeship Program that has a budgetary allocation of about 300 million Ghana cedis. It is now up to the Ejumawura beneficiaries to apply and then be taken through the various capacity building training, and the 10,000 business finally giving money from the allocation. So there's a deep recognition that we cannot just tick boxes, because eventually, just as we asked of the opposition, we must fill the economy in our pocket.
On that note, because we're talking about economy, money in our pockets and all that, I want to talk about the 24-hour economy policy. I thought that was the anchor on which you're building all these other policies and frameworks to boost the economy, the way you came to meet it. But I'm curious to know if any sector has been selected to pilot implementation, or what is the rollout plan for the 24-hour economy?
But you have reported about the passport office that has started, the DVLA office that has started, the national, the publishing.
Hold on a second. We keep saying that there are systems that need to be put in place in order for a proper rollout of the 24-hour economy in terms of security. I still drive through darkness from that La Road. I don't know what's happening. We kept hearing that they'll be fixing the street lights. If something as simple as street lights are not on, are not working, we cannot say that we are fully implementing 24-hour economy. So what I'm asking is, in terms of these sectors that you yourself have just mentioned, DVLA, and are those being implemented in isolation or is part of a broader plan? If so, what is the broader plan, and how are you putting those systems in place so that we can actually see that we are operating a 24-hour economy?
So what the president did immediately he came to power was to set up the 24-hour economy office led by the Dr. Mr. Guzi Tano. And I can tell you, because I saw him so many times coming to brief the president. So sometimes from us internally, we can almost feel the urgent commitment on the side of, the president. But we recognize that urgent commitment alone cannot be enough. When we went 2 weeks ago, was it, to the retreat, Guzi Tano came and did a very comprehensive, presentation on where we're going to start from. It's a program. It's a vision to actualize the 24-hour economy in our system. It's not an event. It's not even a series of events. It will be started by pilots, by institutions that can almost immediately come on board. 2 weeks ago at the presidency, the president launched the Accelerated Export Development, task force, which is made up of key stakeholders, including the AGI, including GRA, to sit around the table and figure out how we can support. Through that initiative, we already have 10 major businesses who have already shown, private businesses, mind you. The option, the vision eventually is to activate our private sector to be the real, cauldron around the 24-hour economy.
Are you incentivizing these
of course,
private?
the president announced during his speech that a committee is being put in place that is looking at the incentive package for these businesses. Whilst we are doing that to roll out a program, we must do the necessary consultations, and the grants work that you're talking about would have to be rolled up. So I just need Ghanaians to understand that it is not an event. It's a series of actions that will ultimately lead, and we're already piloting with government agencies that we have direct control over, that we don't necessarily need to give extra incentives because they are already incentivized to the extent that it is the public purse that is, supporting some of these, entities, even though some are also private, but they are public, institutions.
Right.
So we will get there. I understand that people need, they want to feel the energy.
Passport
they need
is
to
in
feel the
isolation.
energy.
I think some months ago we heard about the petroleum sector also saying that they're also going to start, but it looks like these are just happening in
That's how
is that
big
a sense you
program
get
starts.
As well, Doc?
Big programs
So
start.
let's hear from
Right. So I think what is needed is that comprehensive, encompassing framework that ties it all together. So in the president's update, for example, he highlighted certain government agencies that are already trying to provide 24-hour services.
Yeah.
He also talked about a committee that is looking at, I think it's the Investment Act and some of the labor laws. And so, where the necessary tweaks are made to be able to accommodate whatever or however the 24-hour economy would look like. But as I've said, sooner rather than later, you just hope that it would all come together in that one comprehensive framework so that you would get a sense of where are the priority areas, what kinds of incentives are being offered to which sectors, how is it being rolled out, where will the government begin, the implementation, all of that. I think once Ghanaians start seeing the actuals like that, that is what would give them that confidence that the 24-hour economy has moved beyond a central campaign message into the implementation phase. Because it was really key to the 2024 campaign that the NDC launched around the economy. And so I think that urgency, as Shamima is saying, is there. We just want to make sure that we are seeing that full rollout. Even if it's going to be rolled out in stages, you still want to see.
So you're confident that they're on track in terms of the implementation of this 24 hours?
Well, from everything that the president gave an update on in his speech, I believe that they are. But, being on track, is one thing, right? People want to see that, yes, you are heading in the right direction, but, you just want to see a lot more specifics and a lot more details.
Those specific for me is just street lights. We cannot talk about 24-hour economy policy or, a way of governance or economy, whatever it is, without street lights. Shamima, how seriously is this administration taking something as simple as lighting our streets?
In fact,
just here,
very seriously, the Greater Accra Regional Minister herself, when she came to office, gave herself at least 50 days to try and fix some of the broken.
Then we saw some PR,
down,
we saw some videos.
And then you did see some of those broken down ones. I think that it is true that Accra is largely dark. We can't run away from that fact, and that's the truth of the matter. And again, it's a matter that the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition is working seriously at, because if you look at our power sector, it has the highest debt next to cocoa board. There are great inefficiencies, especially in our power sector. We are sitting on debilitating debts. occasioned as a result of grand collusion and corruption. We are still reeling from investigations into the missing ECG, containers. Where are they? And we saw poles that are supposed to light up. You showed us images of those poles abandoned in uncompleted buildings and in bushes. How did ECG poles and cables, which is supposed to increase connectivity, how did they find themselves in abandoned communities? So there are bigger problems that 4 months cannot, they don't let themselves to quick fixes. We must first acknowledge it. We must look at where the leakages and the abuses have come from. And we as a new government must show commitment to depart from that era and begin to show evidence of what we are doing differently to be able to address those matters.
So you're saying that there's a commitment from this administration to light our streets. I think it would help if you gave us some timelines. Right. Just like you set your own questions with the 120 days. What timelines are we working with in terms of when we can say that Accra is finally being lit? We have lights and we can drive safely.
On this question, yes. It will not lie in my mouth to give the timeline. So from here, I'm going to call the
I'll call you back, Shamima, because I want that answer.
Sweetie says, when are you going to light up Accra? And then when he gives me the answer, I'll come and give you the answer.
A top-up will be, and sometimes there is some need for timelines. You may not be the Greater Accra Regional Minister. You may not be the Mayor of Accra. But just as a promise was made about Accra being the cleanest city in Africa, and are being where we are, there's a sanitation problem.
Yes.
So when we try to hold you to timelines on these things, there's good reason. And
because you understand? We agree with you totally. That's why we even held ourselves to a 120-day timeline to put pressure on ourselves.
But beyond that, let's be more proactive and stick to our timelines. Beyond the street lights, there's another major problem, which actually leads to a lot of accidents that I see, faulty traffic lights. I've seen reports on the traffic light situation and how many of our traffic lights, even in Accra, are working. There are certain places where you get to all the time and it's free for all. It's chaos.
It's chaotic.
The state of nature, if you like.
Here.
You have to, every time, and I don't know for how many years I get to the Labadi Beach, hotel stretch. And senior, sometimes it's crazy. I mean, there have been so many near accidents that I have seen. Because everybody is trying to go and no one wants to give way for the other person. So as we look at street lights, let's look at traffic signals as well. Those are crucial. On the bit about, the gains we have made, though, I have heard some talk, I don't know whether it was the finance minister, talking about the fact that on the back of our city's gains, of course, our debt stock naturally is reducing. What's the state of that? Where are we?
Well, because you see, when the finance minister presented the budget, a lot of our debt commitments were pegged to an exchange rate of $1 to 16 cedis, for example. So if today...
The 721 billion or so that
we have to 600 pay. We have to pay about 480 million cedis almost every year in debt commitment. And if just by the CD appreciation, we are making some gains there. So we don't have to pay at an exchange rate of 16 cedis, but now 13 cedis. I think the challenge is how to ensure that whatever the stars are, they remain aligned in our favor this way. There may be some external, positive, some external negative actions that are positive to us. But internally, of the things that we have direct control over, I think that the Finance Ministry is working very collaboratively with the Bank of Ghana. And the indications, even from our partners, are that they are happy with the trajectory that we are going. From the IMF spring meetings, there seems to be a certain renewed confidence in the Ghanaian economy. I mean, Standard & Poor has given us a review of our credit rating, and that is positive. That is to CCT+. That is really positive. So we need to do more of the good things that we are doing. Of course, there are people who are saying that, okay, you haven't started paying a lot. We can't pay without the audits. Because again, the finance minister has given indication about shady contracts that we're giving without commencement certificates, and people have come to present certificates for payment. So it is not in the interest of the government to honor those kinds of certificates without the necessary audits being done to investigate those matters. So we expect that we'll make savings from obligations that are not justified to be paid with the taxpayers' money, and renegotiate some of those payments that we find some legitimacy to, but maybe some excessive, valuation of those projects. So we're looking at all of that. But it's also the communication of prudence in the management of public resources. Look, I have attended several committee meetings, and it's as small as it is big ultimately in how the leakages happen around our ministries, department, agencies. Several committee meetings, there's no lunch. They're not going to give you lunch, that I personally have attended. And you will hear the complaints, meeting, lunch, at least tea and some biscuits will provide. But, ordering lunch, and we haven't been doing that. So even at the presidency, we got, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but I think I would say it. We got a memo telling us that apart from some specific offices, they are disenabling all DSTV subscriptions. So apparently, many offices with little doing had DSTV subscriptions. So you can imagine the cost of that. I'm saying that the commitment to really change is tangible.
Okay, Shamima, just hold there for
so
me.
Let me just say that they assured us that, we'll make sure that you can have access to free-to-air channels. So
so those DSTV bits, who was paying for that? Taxpayers' money?
I don't know, but I should think so. It would have been part of cost under Office of Government Machinery. It would have been all these.
That's actually a very interesting, if you went into it, especially with the escalating prices
of DSTV.
I'm just not sure how I feel
these
about
channels. But Doc, just a quick bit on, and of course, this is partly your area, so I want us to look at it. The bit on the economy and the exchange rate and how some things are going. I've got some interesting comments. Professor Isaac Wedi, who usually comes here for our news review, Dean of Accounting and Finance at the UPSA, he says, Ghana can't outsource cedi stability to global lack. That's what he says. Then you have Dr. Nyame also saying cedi stability has been built on short-term tricks, not real growth. But you would have your own friend, Dr. Theo Champong, explain to all of us why the Ghana cedi's recovery isn't just external lack. And he will talk about the things that are happening. You would have Professor Lord Mensah also say that these are very positive signals and that certain proper actions are being taken. 4 people, 2 on one end, 2 on the other end. What do you see? What do you see?
So first, let me put a disclaimer that I'm not an economist.
Oh, of course, I know you are not an economist, but you dabble in.
But the economy does you, and you must have an opinion of the economy.
It's a combination of what both are saying, right? I mean, I would go to what the governor of the central bank said, right? Dr. Siama. He pointed to, improvements in our reserves, the inflows, of the dollar. He pointed to better alignment between our monetary and fiscal policy. But then he also pointed to an external factor like the weakening of the US dollar. So it is a combination of both some of these external and internal. I think Dr. Theo Champong gave the most comprehensive explanation of all the things that is contributing to the stability now. The thing that for me will be also important is how you manage and keep that stability. Because we've also seen periods, I mean, if you look at our historical trajectory of the exchange rate, you tend to see periods of highs, periods of lows. Yes. And I think it's that highs and lows that makes it very difficult for businesses to plan, for government to plan, its fiscal outlook and things like that. So managing it at a relatively stable level, I think, will be very important going on. I also hope that, we tend to, I hope that the NDC would also have at the back of its mind the political consequences of doing politics with the exchange rate, right? I mean, we saw what happened.
Dr. Bawumia said it, right?
Exactly, right, and how that became
exchange
one of the
could expose
one of the things that was, sort of quote unquote held against him. So yes, if it was going bad, I'm sure blame would have been laid at the feet of the current government. So if things are improving, it is only fair that they get the credit for it. But a combination of all of those things, but also keeping at the back of your mind that, look, even as you jubilate over this improvement,
we're actually not jubilating.
Managing it and making sure that you can keep it relatively stable based on the things that the governor of the Bank of Ghana said will be very important.
Shamima says they are not jubilating, but you are happy about it and you are touting it now. So we all want it to remain this way and get even better. But if it goes the other way, you would have to rejoice and accept it the same way you're accepting this.
We will not rejoice, but we will have to accept it.
You will have to accept it.
But also to just say, Sweetie, that I think that we also, Sammy Gyamfi has done a great job with the Gold Board. It was one of the legislations that within a very short period between the drafting, it had the most comprehensive stakeholder engagements that we have ever seen in the process. And I can say so because I used to be a parliamentary advocacy officer years ago with the Legal Resources Center. And that was really my work, monitoring the process of legislation making. So that the key stakeholders became the key proponents of the legislation, which is really now law. And as we can see with the figures we are getting, that is really also shoring up, the CD. But that's not the only reason why the CD is faring well. But the fact that we are nationalizing our natural resources and ensuring we get premium value from our natural resources, especially on the back of Galamsey and the devastation that this is leaving us. So we must control who mines and how the gold leave our resources.
Great point,
and I
actually.
think the Gold Board is doing great.
You're commending Sammy Gyamfi for legislation, how it was fast-tracked and all that. So is there a challenge in terms of repealing LI 2462?
There's no challenge.
So why haven't we seen that yet?
There's no challenge because our understanding of what led to the proliferation of mining in forest reserves was with the empowering of the executive to grant those mining leases.
Your understanding
of
it. Shamima?
Yes.
In the lead up to election 2024, you and I sat here and I
spoke
heard
about
you
it.
Hit at this the administration so hard.
Yes.
And we were all united in the call to repeal that LI and declare a state of emergency. You just said that. You're commending Sammy Gyamfi for fast-tracking a legal instrument.
Yes.
It's the same legal instrument that you need. In this case, you just need to repeal it. And you are amending
it. But then you don't understand the nuance of the issue with the legal...
From your understanding, you just needed to take that executive power from the president, right?
It was one of the low-hanging fruits.
Yeah, but that was not what we're asking for.
So do you want me to explain? Because I've explained this matter. No one in their right state of mind would want to encourage or play with the threat of Galamsey on our life. And now sit here as a mother who has had all my children and my children living and growing in this country to make any... Because I'm not engaging Galamsey. I have not taken any Galamsey person's money. So I am not interested in defending illegal mining or the desecration of our forests, and especially our water reserves, because water is life. I said that we were aligned to the advocacy, and I was here strongly calling for a state of emergency and the repeal of the LI 2462. Mind you, because of the public conversation and because the NDC continues to listen, that's call for the repeal of LI 246, even though we have repealed the section that gives the president power to grant mining leases, which is really what led to the proliferation of companies operating in forest reserves. As we speak to you, we have arrested 9 individuals who were reported to have been national security operatives who were supposed to have taken over illegal mining team.
We have to go. That's what they're doing. We know all the things you're doing right now on the fight against Galamsey.
Because there was evidence.
That looks like there's been a U-turn on. That's what
there's no U-turn, and that is not fair because if you're looking at the rollout of the collaborative effort between security agencies as well as the forces and the clamp down on communities and the daily arrest of illegal miners. You cannot say there's a U-turn.
We are
because
grateful.
it is the effect
We're
of
grateful.
the actions and the commitment of
maybe
leaders, and we have proven.
All right.
But we're
final
still hearing
thoughts for
and
us,
taking feedback.
maybe some 20
And I'm
20
sure
seconds.
that the president will act if removing the LI, but again, also to amend the minerals and mining, because that's really the enabling act that has really empowered the LI.
Shamima. I'm
Yes.
sorry I have to.
Sorry.
Doc, quick thoughts, let's.
I mean, as you said, beyond the 120 days.
Yes.
So I think that's what Ghanaians will now keep looking out for, the government's policies, programs, and how it improves governance and socioeconomic outcomes.
All right. And so our guest who joined us for this conversation, Shamima Muslim, Deputy Governance Spokesperson, and we also had John Osai Kwapong. He's a CDD fellow. Still to come.
The official first episode of Joy Prime's culinary extravaganza, Big Chef Jr. Season 4. Some mothers of the selected 12 contestants joined the awards in the kitchen, and this episode was dedicated to mothers as part of the Mother's Day celebration. And the judges introduced a twist to spice things up in the kitchen. Lois Adeyemi gives us a wrap of the day.
Joy Prime's culinary extravaganza Big Chef Jr. Season 4 saw all the 12 contestants pair with their moms in the kitchen as part of the Mother's Day celebration. The mothers expressed their joy working with the awards in the kitchen.
Are you nervous? Any nerves here and there?
No, not at all.
Are you ready for today's task?
Yeah.
Yay! Are you ready for the kitchen?
Yes.
I am. You know the judges are not going to take it easy on you because you're in the kitchen with the kids. So I hope you're ready.
Chef Kofi and Chef Rita, judges for the season, felt out the rules to observe in the kitchen and introduced a twist that kept all teams on their toes. Each team was asked to pick sheets containing 4 main local cuisines: panku with oku, akple with okro, kokonte with groundnut soup, and rice balls with groundnut soup. They were each given 45 minutes to execute the task of the day to perfection.
You are sharing the sink. So the rule is do not leave a knife in the sink. That is 1. 2, do not run. You know, we look a bit one step at a time. So do not run. Once you run, what happens? There might be a fall. There might be accident in the kitchen. That's the rule number 2.
I can feel love in the air, which is so beautiful. Okay, so the contestants are those cooking. The mothers are supposed to help them and not to cook for them. Okay,
45 minutes for you to prepare the whole food, whether soup, pepper, you have to do whatever within 45 minutes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Start work.
Start work.
Judges went round making sure that all protocols and rules of the Big Chef kitchen were observed accordingly. The time elapsed and all teams were brought to a standstill.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop work.
Stop work.
Please, the cleaning should also cease as well.
Yes.
No movement in the kitchen.
Each team presented their meals to the judges. After tasting, the judges expressed their impression with the mothers and their awards. Smiles filled the air in the kitchen as all teams were rewarded with an eviction-free night.
Welcome back to the AM show. Let's talk about the Global Go Secular program. And it's commissioned by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. And it's in partnership with the EPA, MESTI, and other private institutions who are ready to reduce the plastic menace in this country. In the studio with me to get into this conversation, we have a rep from the EPA, Hobson Ajapong. Hobson, welcome to the program. We also have Richmond Kwaku, who is also a rep from Plastic Punch. And we have Daniel Nyakote. He's a retail outlet from Sneda. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. So we're going to discuss bag the habit of single-use plastics. I think that's the initiative we're talking about, but it's under the Go Circular program, right? Let me start with you then, Hobson. How is the EPA supporting this initiative? But first, feel free to give us a bit of brief or background on how this came to be, and then tell us how the EPA is supporting it.
All right. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I think the Environmental Protection Authority, it used to be an agency and now an authority. And then we have been given the mandate, the oversight responsibility to ensure that we manage the environment of the Republic of Ghana. But then we have a responsibility towards, our partners. And then GIZ, as part of the arrangement, decided to also assist us with the single-use plastic, which is a challenge in the country at the moment. It's a global issue that we need to address. And I'm sure this intervention is going to help us to be able to achieve our mandate as well. That is why we are supporting the...
Okay. And Richmond, you come from Plastic Punch. Tell us what you do and also the intention behind your coming on board this program.
Well, thank you very much. So Plastic Punch, we use what we call citizen science. That's doing science with a large number of people. And the hope is to inspire behavioral change towards the triple planetary crisis: plastic pollution, climate change, biodiversity loss, and coming up with solutions. So as part of coming up with solutions is how we found ourselves working with the Go Circular, GIZ, and all these amazing partners and private sector, is we co-designed a voluntary pact which has private sector, that is businesses coming together to admit that, hey, or to recognize that plastic pollution is a problem, especially single-use plastics is a problem. So we're working with supermarkets and bringing the supermarkets together to decide, just like was done in other countries, like in the UK, like in France, to put a price on these single-use plastic bags, which are distributed for free in the supermarket. That way, the next time the customer is coming, a form of a behavioral nudge, the next time the customer is coming, they pay for these single-use plastics and thereby coming with their own reusable bag. Hence, bagging the habits.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting way to put it, to bag the habits. They say our habits make us. So if we can actually get into the habits of using single plastic, then we are one step closer to solving the problem. Let me speak to the rep from Sneda now, and Daniel Nyakoto. Daniel, what's the motivation behind you signing on board this voluntary pact against single-use plastics? Also, tell us a bit about Sneda before you get into it.
Okay. So I'm Daniel, as you do mention. Sneda is a retail, and then we do wholesaling also. We are specialized on getting these Indian items, like the Indian spices. So we get signed to, we get on board, we get on cooperation with GIZ and then other people. And then the reason why we took that decision is to reduce the single plastic used. To stop, we feel like it's not good for the environment, for the human being. And then we know, so we decided to, sign on board, which is something that we have tried working on it for some years back and it didn't work. So as we heard about this, we were like, okay, then this is the right time. We can push forward for it.
Let me come back to the EPA, Hobson. And in fact, I did have a conversation with the CEO some months back, and she mentioned that they were going to start phasing out the use of plastics, maybe starting from our airports and all that. You are on the ground. How is the reception of Ghanaians towards, this new attitude or habits that we're encouraging? Are they welcoming it? Are they against it? What do you gather from your interactions with Ghanaians?
From what I gathered, and then hence the introduction of this program. And as you have already indicated, the professor is so excited about the fact that there's something that we can do about this plastic menace. We are not against plastic in totality, because plastic is used in so many, even your laptop that you are using, there is a component of plastic. But
True.
then it's about the problematic ones, the single use, the ones that we get and then we discard. In those days in our villages, we used to, shop with baskets.
With a napkin on top.
Very beautiful. And now that, we have our cars among others, you can shop, put it in it nicely and take it home. But then what happened? And then we have left it for some time. Let me give you just a small statistics about, we generate about 1 million tons of plastics every year.
You mean plastic waste or just?
Plastic waste every year.
Yeah.
And then we have about 120 companies in Ghana producing plastics. But then they produce about between 52,000 tons, and the rest is coming from outside. And then you ask yourself, where is the benefit? But then the behavioral change, what we are preaching is, we used to have a culture. And that culture, we need to understand that it was a good culture. The only issue we had with it was the hygienic aspects, which we were supposed to look at it. But then we introduced the plastic. Recently we conducted a research, and then it indicated that one single-use plastic, the cocoa we eat, the porridge in plastic, if you consume just one, is equivalent to about consuming about 30, how many?
36.
About 36 sticks of cigarettes.
Yeah.
So it's about human health.
Yeah.
It's about the environment. And that is what we need to. So it's a collective decision that we all need to take.
Okay.
It's a lifestyle that we need to change towards a sustainable environment. And if you look at our policy, plastic management policy, national plastic management policy, it is clear. The first focal area is behavioral change. And how can we do that? We need to find an alternative. And the alternative exists already.
Yeah.
Let's go back to it. Let's adopt it. Let's use those tote bags. And assume if you go to the shopping mall and you have your tote bag, you avoid about 10 of the plastics.
We have to be wrapping up now. You see, I know that people change one of three reasons. Either they hear enough that they want to change, they experience enough that they want to change, or something drastic happens to them that causes them to want to change. I know that it's a long haul, but we are starting from somewhere. I'll give you 30 seconds each to just talk to the people so that they hear you on why we need to bag the habits of single-use plastics. Let's go.
Nice, thank you. I think, first of all, I want to say very big kudos to the supermarkets who are signed on board this voluntary pact. In so many countries where they've been able to manage or been able to deal with single-use plastic, it started with action by the private sector. This is a situation where in Ghana, our supermarkets have come together and said that, hey, we are going to put 50 pesos on these plastics so that we can encourage more reusable lifestyles. So this is something revolutionary. And the dream and hope is, and that we have EPA and MEST on board, like other countries, once we start implementing this voluntary position, for which the fundamental principles is with collective action, government will make it mandatory. And then we would have less plastics and better lives in the country.
Well, thank you so much. And that there is Richmond Kwaku, a rep from Plastic Punch. I'll give the final word to Daniel Nyakote. Why should we hop on the bandwagon with you?
Okay, so I advise our customers, especially our buyers, since last week we started it. First, we start with the education, telling them when they get to the shop and then they've seen something like this. It's not something new. It's not like we want to rob them or take their money from them. So that is what we have started now, and we are hoping to get to there.
All right, so this is Go Secular, and the actual initiative is Bag the Habit of Single-Use Plastics, and I hope to eradicate the plastic menace here in Ghana. Those who join us for the conversation, Hobson Ejapong is a rep from EPA, Richmond Kwaku is from Plastic Punch, and Daniel Nyakote is from Sneda. It's a retail outlet. They joined us for this conversation. That's not all. I know you're waiting for what's in the trends, but a couple of conversations more, and then we'll bring you that. Stick and stay. We'll be right back.
Welcome back on the AM show. We head to Germany now. No, not literally, just figuratively. Joy News, in partnership with the German Embassy, will be hosting a monthly community-focused conversation. In fact, it will take place from now till November, dubbed Climate Talks. And the engagements are designed to enhance public understanding of Ghana's nationally determined contributions. Now, it will also showcase the economic opportunities within the climate change commitments, demonstrating how they can attract private investments. Well, joining me in the studio to elaborate on all of these and tell us what exactly this maiden edition is going to bring to bear is Daniel Krul. He is German ambassador to Ghana. Your Excellency, good morning.
Very good morning to you and to all the viewers of the great AM show.
Right.
Thank you for having me here.
Our first interaction was in your own setting. Today you've come to us. Thank you for doing us the honors. Let's just walk into this climate talks. It's become a significant platform. Tell us about why we're even doing this, why this came to bear.
Well, we are on an AM show, so all your viewers will recall that a few hours ago they woke up and they felt this pressure that they have to urgently go to the washroom or a bush. But they felt, oh, I'm still sleepy. I want to stay a little longer and follow my dreams. And so they try to ignore the challenge, the pressure inside, and then they turn around, hope to forget about this. But the pressure stays on and stays on. So at the end, there's no way out, but they have to rush to the washroom, get rid of the problem.
We all go through that. We
all go through that every morning, right? So that is how mankind currently is coping with the climate change challenges. We are trying to ignore them, even though if you ask Ghanaians in the farming sector, who are including the cocoa sector, if you talk to Ghanaians at the coastal line, coping with flooding, if you talk to the people in the central region having to cope with excessive rainfalls, talking to the Ghanaians in the north and the many who join Ghana from the Sahel, who have to cope with droughts and severe challenges to their life and livelihoods, they know that it is real, it's pressing, and we have to do something now. So that is the context. The knowledge is out there, people know that it is pressing, and we just want to support Ghanaian media to engage in this subject. We believe is crucial for not only Ghana, but for the entire globe. And we want to create a platform where practitioners, people who are impacted, meet experts who might offer solutions or plan for action, and decision makers, and to join forces to come up with very ambitious targets for the people and the country.
And in light of that, how do you envision Ghana's green transition as we talk about these updated nationally determined contributions? And how does it feed into Germany's broader climate and developmental goals?
Well, first of all, I think His Excellency the President set a very bold and very encouraging sign when renaming the Energy Minister into the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition. I think that really is a clear guidance for the new administration, and that shows the commitment of this administration. I think that's a very good starting point. We have been supporting the Ghanaian governments in the past and trying to encourage them to take steps towards more renewable energy, and we have a broad framework of cooperation that amounts to currently roughly 800 million euros. But I just want to mention two projects I think that are key, and that is one is called Government Goes Green, and it's about offering financial support to government institutions to install their own reliable renewable energy sources. So this applies to ministries, agencies, but also schools, universities, hospitals. So there's a fund of roughly 20 million available. It's ready to be dispersed. All contracts are signed. We just need the green light from the government to go and have that. That will be very, very encouraging. And then it's not so much about Ghana and Germany. It's Ghana and the globe. We are here together in that boat, and we have to all contribute. We all have to come up with our national contributions. They have to be nationally determined. That's why you call them NDC. national determined contribution. And we just can offer assistance to meet these targets.
Right, and of course the Paris Agreement, it covers all of the globe. But how crucial is private sector participation to push these NDCs in Ghana specifically? How crucial is it?
It's very crucial, but sometimes people believe that coping with climate change is only about the private sector. So to begin with, that's not true, but it's also to engage in the private sector. With Ghana industrializing step by step even more, it becomes even more important, more relevant for the future. So it's not so much maybe about the past, but how Ghana is going to guide its industry through growth in the coming years in this very, very prospering region from Abidjan to Lagos. And there's a lot of responsibility that is growing, not for the past. The past responsibility is mainly on us, on the northern countries, but for the future, there's a growing responsibility I see, at least from my point of view, also including in West Africa. And so the private sector is key. There are two main sectors, I think, in Ghana, which have an enormous footprint here in this context, and that's about cement and that's about mining. So there are many different ways of producing cement. Ghana has to be careful not to become a dump site for outdated technologies that are brought in, because they are no longer allowed in other countries because of the negative impact on climate. So that has to be aware. But there are very, very exciting new developments in this sector. There are companies who are investing heavily in ways of production, state-of-the-art technology in Ghana. And so customers should look into the product and learn what is more green than others.
As you make your next stop in Jamestown, clean cooking is your central theme. Why should Ghanaians focus more on what source of energy they use for cooking their food?
I just mentioned it's about the private sector, but it's not all about the private sector. It's also of the home sector. To give you an example, in Germany, almost 1/4 of the carbon footprint is related to energy consumption of private households. So that is a key component. Now we all know the smoke that is generating while cooking. That is, of course, also a relevant factor if you have 80% of all households using wood or charcoal as an energy source for cooking. So it's a huge impact we are looking at. It has an impact on the forestry dimension, because how do you produce charcoal? Because you cut trees, and so that is an impact. But most importantly, and that is so challenging here, is it's also a big health issue. The people who are working in the kitchen, mostly women, are exposing themselves to very, very severe risk of health issues. Because inhaling the smoke while cooking is very, very dangerous for your health. So that is a good example where you can try to join two elements, the climate element and the health element, and trying to join forces. Because it's, for the politicians, it's always very, very challenging to strike the right balance between being ambitious and not being too over-ambitious and risking that you might lose the support of your people.
Right.
So this cooking issue is, I think, perfect, because you have this health issue, which is very, very relevant for the women in this country.
Before I take your final words, just to let you know that, of course, you can tune in on Joy News and Asempa FM for that community engagement, and you should be seated by 9:30 a.m. for the live broadcast at 10 a.m. And it's all about, well, climate talks, cooking up a cleaner and greener future. So tell us, what are the relevant dates, or at least what is the relevant date for the upcoming one? What can we look forward to?
Well, we will have a set of events coming up. We have 7 meetings on different issues. We start with the cooking. We will look into public transportation. We will look into the cement industry, as I mentioned, and other relevant factors. So this will go on from May to end of November, and then we have a closing up event in December.
Right. Any final words?
My final words, thank you very much for Joy News, for joining us, and we are very happy that you accepted our offer to support, and we are very, very encouraged by the commitment we see from Joy News in the matter of coping with climate change. Thank you very much for having me.
And so, like you see on your screen, that maiden edition coming off at the Freeman Methodist Church on May the 15th at 10 a.m. Be seated by 9:30 a.m. if you can make it. The one who joined me for the conversation, the German ambassador to Ghana, His Excellency Daniel Krun. One more time, thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you.
And that's how we cap off this conversation. We're going to take a little breather. We'll be back with more action on the AM show. Well, and that's how we get ready to wind down the conversations on the AM show. It's been exciting, hasn't it, sweetie?
I was born on a Monday, so Mondays are fast becoming my favorite. And unfortunately, we couldn't bring you in the trends today, but of course, they will be here on Monday next week to bring you everything that's trending. We are leaving you with Ghana Grows Changing Narratives, which is brought to you by MasterCard Foundation in collaboration with Springboard Roadshow Foundation. Please enjoy and make a date with us tomorrow at 6 a.m. on the Joy News channel. Ben and I will be back here on your screens.
I grew up in a home where my dad makes shoes, and you get to stay with him and all that. So instead of not just doing anything, it's better you learn the skill, right? And so I stayed with him and I took advantage and learned the skill. In school, we're taught entrepreneurship. There are 3 ways you can spot opportunity. One, either you are solving a problem, either you are spotting opportunities, or you are finding a gap. Well, I captured an opportunity my dad has, and then also the gap, because there's an industry where you don't see a lot of women, and there are a lot of women, but they are not that known. I have a lot of friends who make shoes, but they are reserved. And besides, the world celebrates not just normal people. People are just different. And so why don't I capitalize on that? So that's why I decided to, okay, why not shoe girl? I didn't do it all alone. I had a team, and so everybody has their strength, and we all leverage on that.
When I met Edna professionally, I saw somebody who was taking the footwear business to a next level. Then I decided, okay, why not we work together and then rather go farther than just doing separate things as different individuals.
In terms of business growth, we are able to get to produce in large quantity for schools, people buying it casually, and then even exporting to other countries.
We say we are interested in the success of our customers. So when somebody buys from Ahomfade, you are getting a product that it's not just quality, but it's also durable. And the price is very, very affordable compared to our competitors on the market. We try to keep our prices very, very optimal so that we are able to serve at least the middle class in the society.
I've been buying from Ahomfade shoes, and I think it's the best.
Edna dear, Semini, Yame Achamade, if we say a bra or no, then who best share you many moon. Moon fast with dear be brave. A basic affair, Yan fast will be brave. Ultimate bois or no one casa, do a bon and a one on your school or university or no one casa, no chimpo or sab one in Yamuketua. So at Ahomfade, we say we celebrate Ghanaian craftsmanship.
You know, we do more than just making footwear. We are interested in changing the narrative. We try to educate people. Sometimes we even organize seminars to train young people on how to leverage social media. We make and train people in shoemaking.
I usually come here on vacations to help my boss to do his job. This job has helped me in so many ways that I've been able to learn how to sit behind the machine to work. This job has made me independent. I don't depend on my parents anymore.
We have crochet products, we have necklaces and other stuff that are handmade.
And we want to also expand further, have other more shops across not just the region, but also outside Ghana. Maybe imagine having a Ahofade shop in Kenya, in Zimbabwe, Rwanda. And then also we want to have academy
where people learn handmade skills. So the plan is to have a more structured approach
to the Ahofade Academy
to serve the broader market in Africa.
Being in this business, I have gained some recognition. I could talk about Ghana's Grow Young Innovator by Springboard Roadshow Foundation and MasterCard, which happened at Koforidua. So I was part of the top 10 finalists.
Congratulations, Edna Frimpong, Shoemaker Girl.
It's a blessing to be part of Ghana Grows, and I pray that to continue the impact and then it won't stop now.
This is made in Ghana with a different level.
Anna say nipa so otiti will be kra maninya ne nsa no adwuma eno nso ye nhyira kese pa eno nti minim da nyame be frɛ me na mi se de wasom no de nyame kra frɛ me a obeto aso.
My advice for any young person watching me is that you need to start with what you have. If you are good at sewing, start from your one corner in your room, that single room, be there and be sewing and be praying to God that God will bless your hands. He will throw more visibility on whatever you're doing. My name is Edna Frimpong, the Shoemaker Girl, PR for Ahofade, Ghana Grows, Hope Day.
Ghana Grows, Hope Day.